Chapter 4471. In the primordial beginning realm, the Five Elements sect was only a medium-sized sect. It was one of the countless sects and sects under the Five Elements Heavenly sect. The Five Elements Sky sect was a behemoth, and there were countless factions attached to it. However, the Five Elements sect wasn't as simple as it seemed. The sect master of the Five Elements sect was a celestial immortal. The immortal realms in the primordial beginning realm could be divided into human immortal, earth immortal, celestial immortal, profound immortal, golden immortal, immortal king, immortal emperor, immortal venerate, and supreme sacred immortal. Celestial immortals were not uncommon in the primordial beginning realm. However, celestial immortals were considered experts who had truly embarked on the immortal Tao. Human immortals and earth immortals were not enough. In the primordial beginning realm, there were as many celestial immortals as there were hairs on a cow. However, not everyone could become a celestial immortal. For top forces like the 10 major heavenly sects and the supreme celestial dynasty, celestial immortals were nothing. With the resources of these forces, they could easily produce a celestial immortal. Even profound immortals, golden immortals, and immortal kings could be easily nurtured by these top forces because they had the ability to do so. Legend had it that a peerless alchemy immortal could make an ordinary cultivator become a human immortal, or even an earth immortal with a single pill. The legendary Supreme Celestial Pill could even make an immortal venerate. Of course, this was only a legend. The legend might not be true, but wind would not come for no reason. The sect master of the Five Elements sect had an unusual identity. This was something Gu Fei had not expected. Fellow Taoists, stop hiding your head and showing your tail. Show me your true form. In the Five Elements immortal realm of the Five Elements sect, a white-robed youth smiled at Gu Fei in front of a thatched cottage. The air was filled with the faint fragrance of tea. Even someone at Gu Fei's realm would feel refreshed and energized by the tea's fragrance. It should be noted that although Gu Fei had sealed his extreme grade cultivation base, his mental state was still at the extreme grade level. It was extremely difficult to affect his mind. This enlightenment tea was indeed worthy of its reputation. Gu Fei smiled and said, "This is the true form. There is no need to reappear. Your view is too narrow, and your vision is too low. In your lifetime, you might only be able to be a heavenly immortal or a sect master of a small sect." "What did you say?" The white-robed youth's expression turned solemn. "In this world, you're not the only smart person. To be precise, you're just a little smart." Gu Fei took a sip of tea with an indifferent expression. At this moment, the white-robed youth's expression had already turned completely cold. "It seems like letting you live was a mistake." The white-robed youth suddenly chuckled. He seemed to have lost interest. It was as if he had done something that he didn't think would be boring, but now it seemed extremely boring. "You let me live?" Gu Fei was a little disdainful, and he showed it on his face. "Aren't you very smart? Do you think that the Black Demon Lake and the Demon Refining Mountain will be so easily defeated by you? Don't be naive," the youth in white said coldly. "I'm naive?" Gu Fei couldn't help but laugh. Since his debut, no one had ever dared to say that he was naive. How dare a puny heavenly immortal say that he was naive? Ridiculous. "Let me tell you a secret. The dragon in the Black Demon Lake has successfully broken through to the Earth Immortal realm," the white-robed youth said proudly. An Earth Immortal was merely an ant in his eyes, but in the eyes of the Scarlet Firmament sect, it was a giant dragon. If an Earth Immortal attacked, he could destroy the Scarlet Firmament sect with a single punch and kill all the disciples of the sect. "Do you think you can fight against an Earth Immortal with your current cultivation? I don't care what kind of ancient monster you are, or what kind of heaven-defying divine sense you had in your previous life, but you've just taken over the body and are still very weak. If you were to cultivate for a few years, it might be hard to say. But now, you can't," the white-robed youth said disdainfully. "Ha ha!" Gu Fei finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. His voice spread far and wide. "This is—" The higher-ups of the Five Elements sect who were cultivating in the Five Elements immortal land were alarmed. Even the formation that isolated aura and sound couldn't stop the laughter. Is it the sect leader? I don't think so. Someone dares to laugh wantonly here. Who is he? The elders and foreign dignitaries of the Five Elements sect rushed out and looked in the direction of the sect leader of the Five Elements sect. I've underestimated you. Your mental state is actually comparable to a heaven immortal. The white-robed youth was surprised. Could this guy be the descendant of one of those powerful experts? However, there hadn't been any powerful almighties who had fallen recently. The white-robed youth's mind was spinning rapidly. Although he maintained the appearance of a youth, he was actually an old monster. He had just taken over a new body, so his mental state and cultivation wouldn't be too high. One should know that to improve one's cultivation, one needed to cultivate. Even if an old monster was reincarnated, there would usually be a period of weakness for a few years. However, this guy didn't seem to have a period of weakness. You're not just underestimating me. I'm curious how you're going to deal with me, Gu-Fei said calmly. How I'm going to deal with you? The white-robed youth stared at Gu-Fei. Gu-Fei was too calm. This was definitely not a good thing. Either this guy had something to rely on and wasn't afraid of him, or he was just pretending. If this guy was really pretending, then he was really good at pretending. Was he pretending, or did he have something to rely on? What a dilemma! The white-robed youth's forehead was beaded with sweat. If he made the wrong choice, the consequences would be dire. How about this? You'll follow me from now on and run some errands, Gu-Fei suddenly said. What? The white-robed youth was dumbfounded when he heard Gu-Fei's words. He was a heaven immortal, and a sect leader at that. How could this guy want him to be his slave? The Five Elements sect is nothing. Why don't you follow me? Gu-Fei said calmly. You! The white-robed youth was truly shocked. This guy actually dared to disregard the Five Elements sect? Haha! How arrogant! Who do you think you are? A Supreme Saint Immortal? Or the legendary Supreme Realm Master? What a joke! The white-robed youth said agitatedly. His background wasn't simple, otherwise he wouldn't know some of the secrets of the primordial realm. Make your choice. Follow me or die. Gu-Fei was still sipping on his tea. You! The white-robed youth was infuriated. Sigh, in the end, you're still a frog in a well. Gu-Fei put down his cup and glanced at the white-robed youth. The guy was no longer calm. His forehead was beaded with sweat. It seemed that Yi Futian had scared him. A heaven immortal had been scared off by Yi Futian? Although Gu-Fei looked calm on the surface, he was inwardly overjoyed. He had never tried something like this before. This was a new kind of experiment. Perhaps this was the art of trickery, but it was a bit new to him. The white-robed youth had too many misgivings. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been hesitant to make a decision just because of Gu-Fei's words. If he made the wrong choice, he would die a horrible death. What do you think? Do you know how many experts in this world cry and beg to be my slave? I can't even be bothered to look at them. I'm giving you a chance. Gu-Fei looked at the white-robed youth with a faint smile. Do you know who I am? You want me to betray the Five Elements Heaven sect? In your dreams. The white-robed youth suddenly made up his mind. All right then. After saying so much, it seems that I'm playing the lute to a cow. Well, you want to kill me? Gu-Fei sensed the white-robed youth's murderous intent. He hadn't had any murderous intent before, but now he did. It seemed that the leader of the Five Elements sect was really going to kill him. How dare you look down on the Five Elements Heaven sect? You deserve to die. The white-robed youth no longer hesitated. He opened his mouth and spat out a five-colored sword light, which pierced through Gu-Fei on the other side of the stone table. A cold sword she immediately appeared between heaven and earth. The temperature of the entire world dropped rapidly. This was an attack from a celestial immortal realm sword immortal. In any other world, this attack would be able to destroy an entire galaxy. It was extremely terrifying. However, this was the primordial world, the beginning of all worlds on the same level as the primordial world. The laws of heaven and earth here were perfect and extremely powerful. Even nascent soul realm cultivators couldn't fly here. Even a celestial immortal's all-out attack wouldn't be able to shake this part of the world. Just as the sword light that rushed out of the white-robed youth's mouth was about to pierce through Gu Fei's head, Gu Fei disappeared into the void like air. What? The white-clothed youth's shock was no small matter. A living person had actually disappeared right in front of his eyes. He didn't even see how this living person disappeared. Isn't he only at the divine transformation realm? The white-robed youth was both shocked and angry. This guy really did have something to rely on. He was doomed. At this thought, the white-robed youth's expression changed drastically. One thought to see, O God! At this moment, a voice rang directly in the white-robed youth's mind. Then, the white-robed youth shook violently. The next moment, he was horrified to find that his cultivation had been sealed. Even his divine thoughts couldn't leave his body. Then, Gu Fei's figure walked out of the void. The powerful celestial immortal aura that erupted from the white-robed youth was also sealed. What kind of divine sense is this? The white-robed youth stared at Gu Fei in horror. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what I said just now? Gu Fei walked over, sat down at the stone table, and continued to drink tea. What did you do to me? The white-robed youth was really shocked. His cultivation had been completely sealed. It was absolutely impossible for him to break the seal on his body. What should I do? The white-robed youth, Wang Qin, was anxious, angry, and scared. He was afraid that this guy would kill him. No one could believe that a little guy at the divine transformation realm could actually restrain a celestial immortal. That was a celestial immortal, not a small character. Chapter 4472. With just a thought, Gu Fei knocked a high and mighty fairy immortal down to the mortal world. Such a means really frightened Wang Qin, the head of the Five Elements sect. He could sense that his cultivation had really disappeared. How was this possible? Could it be that this guy was actually the reincarnation of one of those legendary heaven-defying old monsters? In the primordial world, even extreme Tao Saint immortals had been heavily injured and had no choice but to take over the bodies of others. Of course, it was absolutely rare. This was because extreme Tao sacred immortals were existences that stood at the very peak of the grand beginning realm. They looked down on all worlds. Battles rarely broke out between such existences. Even though the laws of heaven and earth of the grand beginning realm were very powerful, the destructive power of an extreme Tao sacred immortal was absolutely astonishing. The last battle of extreme Taoists in the Grand Prime Realm had occurred 100,000 years ago. That battle had reduced everything within 1 billion kilometers of the Grand Prime Realm to dust. Billions of lives had been lost. Fortunately, that battle had erupted in the wildlands. If it had erupted in the center of the primal beginning realm, many people would have died. There were tens of thousands of races in the primal beginning realm. The human race was the main race, but the other races also had extreme Tao level existences. Only a faction with a supreme Tao ancestor could be called a peak faction. Each peak faction had billions of miles of territory in the grand beginning realm and ruled over countless beings. For example, the Five Elements Heavenly Sect was one of the 10 major heavenly sects of the primordial world. It ruled over a territory of hundreds of millions of miles. Compared to the primordial world, a territory of hundreds of millions of miles was insignificant. The primal beginning realm was just too big. Perhaps only extreme Tao Saint immortals knew how big the primordial world was. Did I really hit the jackpot today? Could it be that I actually encountered a supremacy who has been reincarnated? At this thought, beads of sweat the size of soybeans appeared on Wang Chen's forehead. This kind of existence possessed all kinds of incredible magic power. It was said that this kind of existence could create a whole world with just a thought. Who the hell are you? Wang Chen pretended to be calm, but there was fear in his eyes. You have no right to know who I am. Gu Fei was still enjoying his tea. What do you want? Wang Chen said through clenched teeth. He was a dignified celestial immortal, but now he had become a prisoner. What do I want to do? Let me think. Gu Fei said. He naturally had a goal in coming to the primal beginning world. He sealed his cultivation and a strand of immortal will took over Chu Xiaoyun's body. This was to use Chu Xiaoyun's body to cultivate the cultivation technique of this world. Through cultivation, he could comprehend the grand Tao of this world and become a peerless expert here. In this way, he could ignore the suppression of the heavenly Tao of this world. In a world like the primal beginning world, the source of all worlds, the laws of the world were extremely powerful. When other worlds entered the primal beginning world, they would be suppressed by the laws of the world there. If one's cultivation was weak, the suppression of the heavenly Tao wouldn't be obvious. However, Gu Fei was an extreme Tao supremacy. The suppression of the heavenly Tao upon entering the primordial world was absolutely terrifying. As an extreme Tao supremacy, Gu Fei could exert 100% of his cultivation in the heaven realm, the human realm, and even the ancestral realm. However, if he restored his extreme Tao supremacy here, he could only exert 50% or 60% of his cultivation at most. Therefore, compared to the extreme Tao supremacy of the primal beginning world, Gu Fei was still a bit weaker. Although he was fearless, his hands and feet were tied. Only by obtaining the recognition of this world could he be completely integrated into it. To obtain the recognition of this world, the method was very simple. That was to cultivate, and then verify the Tao. If he could successfully verify the Tao and obtain the recognition of the heavenly Tao, Gu Fei would no longer be suppressed by the grand Tao of the primal beginning world. How about this? Show me the best cultivation technique of your 5 elements sect. Gu Fei glanced at Wang Chen and said indifferently. What? Wang Chen was shocked. Was this guy really one of those legendary people who took over the body of others and was reborn? How dare he ask me for a cultivation technique? From Wang Chen's point of view, if Gu Fei was really reborn, he would naturally cultivate his own cultivation technique again. It was impossible for him to find another cultivation technique to cultivate. After all, his own cultivation technique was the most suitable for him. What, you don't want to? Gu Fei glanced at Wang Chen, who was stunned. No, don't get me wrong. I'll go get it now. Wang Chen hurriedly said, then directly turned around and walked away. Although his cultivation had been sealed by Gu Fei, he could still come and go as he pleased in his own home. Soon, Wang Chen returned with a large bundle of ancient books. 5 Elements Sword Principle, Fire Sun Skill, Purple Sun Heavenly Skill, Mixed Elements Spirit Capture. They're all rubbish! Gu Fei directly threw these books to the side. You want to brush me off with these rubbish? Gu Fei was a little angry. This guy's cultivation had been sealed by him, and now he still dared to brush him off. He was courting death. This. Senior, how dare I brush you off? Our 5 Elements sect is only a small sect. These cultivation techniques are already the best in our 5 Elements sect, Wang Chen said with some grievance. The 5 Elements sect was not some sacred sect. How could they have good secret books? I want the 5 Elements divine skill of the 5 Elements sect, Gu Fei said. What? Hearing that Gu Fei actually wanted the 5 Elements supreme art, Wang Chen, the sect master of the 5 Elements sect, was immediately thrown into confusion. That was the 5 Elements supreme art! As a mere sect master of the 5 Elements sect, how could I possibly obtain it? Even among the inner core disciples of the 5 Elements sect, not many were qualified to cultivate this divine skill. I'm just an abandoned disciple of the 5 Elements sect, not even an inner disciple. How can I get in touch with the 5 Elements sect's signature cultivation technique? Looks like I'll have to think of another way, Gu Fei said in a low voice. He originally wanted to start from a low-level cultivator and become an expert step by step. But now it seemed that these cultivation techniques were not suitable for him at all. Only the best cultivation techniques could help him embark on the path of an expert. In the world of cultivation, talent was the most important thing, followed by physique, and finally cultivation techniques. But now it seemed that this body of his did not have any talent at all. After his transformation, his physique had become the mixed Taoist body. people with such a heaven-defying physique would definitely be the target of many top forces. Just as Gu Fei was thinking about this, an old servant in Cyan suddenly walked in from outside. Sect Master. The old servant hurriedly bowed to Wang Qin and then glanced at Gu Fei. The sect master seemed to value this guy a lot. The old servant had no idea that his sect master had long been subdued by Gu Fei. What's the matter? Wang Qin couldn't help but frown when he saw the old servant in Cyan. Sect Master, there's someone outside who claims to be your eldest senior brother who wants to see Sect Master. The old servant hurriedly said. My eldest senior brother? Wang Qin was stunned when he heard that. His eldest senior brother was a genius. After entering the Five Elements Sky Sect, it only took him 3 years to become an inner sect disciple of the Five Elements Sky Sect. That was an inner sect disciple, also known as a true disciple. If he could become a true disciple of the Five Elements Sky Sect, he would naturally soar to the sky. Wang Chen's eldest senior brother was far more than just a true disciple. Why is eldest senior brother looking for me? Wang Chen was a little shocked, but mostly suspicious. 500 years ago, he and his eldest senior brother cultivated together in the Five Elements Sky Sect, and the two of them had a good relationship. However, after his eldest senior brother entered the inner sect of the Five Elements Sky Sect, he was kicked out of the sect because he made a mistake and became the sect master of the Five Elements Sect. The successor of the Five Elements Sky Sect? With the thought, Gu Fei immediately sensed a purple-robed youth who looked younger than the Five Elements Sect master standing outside the Five Elements Immortal grounds. The purple-robed youth's aura was a little shocking. Under Gu Fei's senses, his entire person was as dazzling as a purple sun. He's cultivating the most authentic cultivation method of the Five Elements Sky Sect. Gu Fei's eyes lit up. What are you trying to do? Wang Qin looked at the guy in front of him as if he was looking at a monster. Was he going to touch his eldest senior brother? I advise you not to even think about touching my eldest senior brother. He's one of the 3 divine princes of the Five Elements Sky Sect. If you touch him, the entire Five Elements Sky Sect will attack you. Is that so? Gu Fei smiled noncommittally and waved his right hand. In the next moment, Wang Qin felt his cultivation returning. He was shocked and angry when he sensed the surging immortal power in his body. Let's go meet your eldest senior brother together, Gu Fei said as he stood up. This? Wang Qin hesitated. He didn't dare to trick his eldest senior brother. However, things were out of his control now. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and go with Gu Fei to meet his eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother, how have you been? Wang Qin and Gu Fei arrived at the entrance of the Five Elements Sky Sect. Wang Qin quickly bowed to a purple-robed youth. Haha, junior brother Wang Qin, it's been 500 years since we last met, right? The purple-robed youth said with a laugh. Yes, it's been 508 years, Wang Qin said with a nod. And this is... The purple-robed youth glanced at Gu Fei and said, Oh, let me introduce you. This is the guest elder of the Five Elements Sect, Chu Xiaoyun, and this is my eldest senior brother, Pan Jianming. Wang Qin introduced. So you're Pan Jianming, divine child Pan. It's an honor to meet you, Gu Fei said quickly. Hee, fellow Gu looks very unfamiliar. I wonder which clan or sect are you a disciple of? Pan Jianming looked at Gu Fei and said. Under his gaze, Gu Fei's cultivation couldn't be hidden at all. This person was just a small cultivator in the divine transformation realm. How could he be the guest elder of the Five Elements Sect? Although Pan Jianming hadn't seen Wang Qin for 500 years, he knew that Wang Qin was a fairy immortal. How could he accept a small guy in the divine transformation realm as a guest elder? This was very unusual, unless this guy had some special magic power. Senior brother, please, Wang Qin said as he led the way. Soon, the 3 of them arrived at the cottage where Wang Qin cultivated and sat down at the stone table. May I know why eldest senior brother is looking for me? Wang Qin asked. I'm here for the Sirius Mountain Range. Pan Jianming didn't hide anything. What? Did that place in the Sirius Mountain Range reappear? Chapter 4473. The Five Elements Heavenly Sect was one of the top forces in the primordial realm, so the divine sons they nurtured were naturally extremely powerful. In just 500 years, Pan Jianming had already cultivated to the quasi-supreme stage, a stage that surpassed the immortal venerables in the primordial realm. Wang Qin was dumbfounded when he found out about his eldest senior brother's cultivation level. A half-step extreme Tao existence that surpassed the immortal venerables. Wang Qin was just a celestial immortal. The gap between them was just too huge. His eldest senior brother was like a dragon in the sky, while he was just an ant on the ground. This was the confidence of divine sons. Divine sons of such superforces were all peerless figures with nature-defying talent. Coupled with the guidance of famous teachers, their progress was naturally very fast. In fact, the divine sons of the heavenly sects and sacred religions were not very old. They were only a few thousand years old. Of course, some of the former divine sons were also very strong, but they were ultimately failures and couldn't win the competition to sit on the position of sect master. These old divine sons were very strong and nature-defying. I didn't expect senior brother to reach the half-step extreme Tao in just 500 years. I really admire you from the bottom of my heart. Wang Qin looked at Pan Jianming enviously. I'm just a little lucky. Pan Jianming smiled. A little lucky? The corner of Wang Chen's mouth twitched when he heard that. You're not just a little lucky, you're nature-defying. Gu Fei didn't say anything until now. He couldn't help but think that this guy was very shrewd. It seemed that he had to pay attention to him. With the arrival of Pan Jianming, the divine son of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect, Gu Fei was overjoyed. He was worried about where to find a top-notch cultivation technique, but he didn't expect that it would come to him on its own. He regarded Pan Jianming as a living top-notch cultivation technique. A divine son like Pan Jianming was definitely the core successor of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect. As the core successor of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect, he was naturally qualified to come into contact with the Five Elements technique. As long as he could capture Pan Jianming, he would be able to obtain the Five Elements technique. Fellow Taoist Chu, I can see that the light of your primordial spirit isn't very pure. Could it be that you've just broken through to the deity transformation stage? After chatting with Wang Qin for a while, Pan Jianming finally noticed Gu Fei, who had been sitting quietly on the side. Yes, I was lucky enough to break through to the soul formation stage 3 months ago. Gu Fei nodded. Wang Qin gave Gu Fei a thumbs up in his mind. This guy can lie without blushing or gasping for breath. His skill is really superb. I wonder who fellow Taoist Chu's master is? Pan Jianming asked. In his eyes, he didn't even need to lift a finger against the puny soul formation brat. As long as he released his half-step extreme grade aura, he would be able to destroy this fellow's body and soul. What I cultivate is the art of battle, Gu Fei said indifferently. Even in the face of a half-step extreme Tao, he was still calm and unruffled. What? Hearing this, Pan Jianming's eyebrows twitched. He was a little surprised, but he quickly calmed down. He thought of a force but didn't say it out loud. However, he didn't dare to underestimate Gu Fei. Could it be that this guy is actually... Wang Qin thought of something and his forehead began to sweat again. I say, why are you always sweating? Are you very weak? Gu Fei glanced at Wang Qin and said. Weak my ass. Wang Qin roared in his heart, but on the surface, he was full of smiles. Hee, it's a little hot. Why is the weather getting hotter and hotter? Humph. Gu Fei ignored Wang Qin. Could it be that fellow Taoist Chu is also here for the Sirius mountain range? Pan Jianming asked. The way he looked at Gu Fei had changed. Hearing this, Gu Fei smiled and said, What on earth is in the Sirius mountain range that attracted Brother Pan's visit? Hearing Gu Fei's words, Pan Jianming was skeptical. Does this guy really not know the ins and outs of the Sirius mountain range? Or does he know the ins and outs of the Sirius mountain range and is pretending to be weak to eat the tiger? There must be something extraordinary in the Sirius mountain range that attracted a divine prince of a sky sect. One should know that divine princes of sky sects were high and mighty. They wouldn't be interested in ordinary things. Only those rare things would make divine princes of sky sects crazy and want them at all costs. There's a grotto heaven, the grotto heaven of the Sirius mountain range. Pen Jianming stared at Gu Fei for a while before he withdrew his gaze and said slowly, "Grotto heaven? A supreme grotto heaven?" Gu Fei's interest was piqued. An extreme supreme being's grotto heaven would definitely contain the inheritance of an extreme supreme being. However, it wouldn't be easy to obtain such an inheritance. No wonder! Gu Fei had a look of realization. Only a grotto heaven of this level would attract the interest of a divine prince like Pan Jianming. Pan Jianming didn't hide anything. In his eyes, Gu Fei was only an ant in the divine transformation realm. There was no threat to him at all. It didn't matter if he told Gu Fei about this. He didn't believe that a puny divine transformation realm cultivator would dare to covet the supreme martial artist's cave. It turned out that the Sirius mountain range wasn't called the Sirius mountain range in the past. It was named after a big shot died in the Sirius mountain range. Before the supreme martial artist died, he even refined his internal world into a grotto heaven. Whoever could enter the Sirius mountain range and obtain the inheritance of the supreme martial artist would be able to soar to the sky. Brother Chu, the supreme martial artist's grotto heaven is full of danger. I think it's better if you don't take the risk, Pan Jianming said calmly. The supreme martial artist's inheritance was not that easy to obtain. Well, Brother Pan, this is a rare opportunity. How about I go and watch the show? Gu Fei said with a smile. Watch the show? Pan Jianming couldn't help but want to laugh. Did this guy just make his debut recently? He's too naive. The grotto heaven of the supreme martial artist is not a safe place. If he's not careful, he might even die in there. Since this guy wants to die, I won't stop him. Hee, alright then. Let's go to the grotto heaven of the supreme martial artist together. Maybe Brother Chu will be lucky and obtain the inheritance of the Sirius, Pan Jianming said with a fake smile. Although the chaotic god of war palace was powerful, if this guy died in the Sirius mountain range, he couldn't blame anyone. He had already warned him. Wang Chen sat at the side and looked at Gu Fei and Pan Jianming. He didn't know what to say. Junior Brother Wang, send someone to check the exact location of the Sirius mountain range, Pan Jianming said to Wang Chen. Yes, Senior Brother! Wang Chen completely lost his temper in front of Gu Fei and Pan Jianming. He didn't dare to offend either Gu Fei or Pan Jianming. Senior Brother Pan doesn't know how powerful this guy is. Sigh. Wang Chen sighed inwardly. At the same time, Wang Chen was looking forward to seeing who would win if these two guys were to fight. Soon, the people sent by Wang Chen came back. Of the 3 people sent, only 1 came back. The other 2 were already dead. The one who came back was also seriously injured. There was a scratch on his abdomen, and even his intestines were flowing out. There was a bloody hole in his chest where his heart was, and blood was flowing out. If this guy wasn't a worldly immortal, he would have died long ago. What's going on? Looking at the worldly immortal kneeling in front of him, Wang Chen's tone was extremely cold. Someone dared to touch his people. That was courting death. It's a demon from the Purgatory Demon Palace, the worldly immortal said, panting. He was very weak. What? Wang Chen immediately lost his temper. The Purgatory Demon Palace was an existence that could go against the 5 elements heavenly sect. In their eyes, he was just a sesame seed that could be destroyed at any time. He couldn't help but admire his subordinate's luck. He actually escaped from the hands of the Purgatory Demon Palace and came back to report. To think that the people from the Purgatory Demon Palace are here too. Pan Jianming frowned. I heard that the god's son died in the Chaos Immortal abode. I wonder if it's true. Wang Chen looked at Pan Jianming. A while ago, the various factions in the primeval realm had lost their gods and saintesses. This caused a huge uproar in the primeval realm. It was said that even the gods of the heavens equal sect and the chaotic war god palace had died. He's pretty much dead, Pan Jianming said indifferently. What did the death of the god's son have to do with him? Senior Brother, the people from the Purgatory Demon Palace killed my people. This? Wang Qin waved the bloody worldly immortal away to rest. This kind of injury wouldn't recover any time soon. Then let's go kill their people. Pan Jiaming looked at Gu Fei and said, if this guy died at the hands of the Purgatory Demon Palace, then there would be a good show to watch. He had already assumed that Gu Fei was from the Chaotic War God Palace. He didn't look very old, so it was very likely that he was an ancestor of the Chaotic War God Palace who had reincarnated. This was also the reason why Pan Jiaming was so polite to Gu Fei. In fact, the moment he saw Gu Fei, he knew that he was an existence that had reincarnated. In the primeval realm, this was a very common method of reincarnation. If such a person died, it would definitely cause a commotion. The people from the Chaotic War God Palace were a bunch of lunatics, and they were extremely strong. No one was willing to provoke them. Pan Jiaming was scheming against Gu Fei, but Gu Fei wasn't so easily tricked. After talking with Pan Jiaming and the rest for a while, Gu Fei went to the place Wang Qin had prepared for him to rest. Wang Qin and Pan Jiaming were having a secret conversation. Junior brother, is this person really an old monster from the Chaotic War God Palace who reincarnated? Pan Jiaming had become the god's son of the Five Elements Sky sect in 500 years. This was no longer a position that could be reached by luck. Probably. Wang Qin nodded. Probably? Are you not sure of his identity? Chapter 4474. The Celestial Wolf Mountain Range in the primordial beginning realm had a legendary origin. Billions of years ago, there were no mountains here. It was just a barren land with extremely thin spiritual energy. It was not suitable for the cultivators of the primordial beginning realm to live in. There were only weak wildlands living beings here. Even some of the living beings with cultivation bases wouldn't choose to cultivate here. However, a legendary figure walked out of this barren land. This existence was the Celestial Wolf Supremacy, who would later shake the primordial beginning realm. The Celestial Wolf Supremacy's original body was only a Shaoqing wolf. However, this Shaoqing wolf supremacy relied on his unyielding will to walk out of this barren land. He went from being extremely weak to going through unimaginable experiences and finally became an invincible supremacy. However, the Celestial Wolf Supremacy still fell in the end. He was plotted against and fatally injured. In the primordial beginning realm, extreme-grade supremacies were not necessarily invincible. This was because there was a difference in strength between extreme-grade supremacies. A peak extreme-grade supremacy could kill a beginner extreme-grade supremacy. Although the Celestial Wolf Supremacy was very powerful, he was no match for schemes and cunning enemies. In the end, he fell. However, before he fell, he killed all those who wanted his life and returned to his birthplace, this barren land that had not changed for millions of years. The Celestial Wolf Supremacy died, but legend had it that his physical body transformed into the current Celestial Wolf Mountain Range. The world he opened up became the Celestial Wolf Cave. As a result, the birthplace of the Celestial Wolf Cave changed from a barren land to a place where spiritual energy gathered to cultivate. Legend had it that the Celestial Wolf Cave contained the inheritance of the Celestial Wolf Cave. However, it was not that easy to obtain the inheritance of the Celestial Wolf Cave. Since ancient times, countless people had wanted to obtain the inheritance of the Celestial Wolf Supremacy, but no one had ever succeeded. Instead, many of those people had died. Some people thought that this was a trap laid by the Celestial Wolf Supremacy, waiting for those who wanted to obtain his inheritance to jump into the trap. However, the inheritance of the Celestial Wolf Supremacy was a fatal temptation to any cultivator. Those people knew that it was dangerous and that there was a slim chance of survival, but they still wanted to give it a try. They all hoped that they would get lucky. However, reality is cruel. Throughout the years, countless cultivators have died in the Celestial Wolf Mountain Range. Even a few demigods have fallen there and lost their lives. This time, most of the divine sons and saintesses of the primordial beginning realm had gone to the Chaos Rift to fight for the opportunities in the Chaos Immortal Mansion. However, some divine princes and saintesses also had their eyes on the Sirius Mountain Range. The inheritance of the Celestial Wolf Supremacy. of the celestial wolf supremacy was sect. However, the celestial wolf inheritance was, after all, a supreme path inheritance. If one could obtain it, it would be a great fortune. Pan Jianming, the divine son of the five elements heavenly sect, arrived near the celestial wolf mountain range and found his former junior brother, Wang Qun. Supra 5 supremacies sect King's supremacy Wang supremacies was spirit sect of Supremikov. Of King's supremacy, Holy King Su, one of a spirit of the Self sect of Wang of sect. Otherwise, why would those divine sons and saintesses take in so many followers? At this time, Wang Chun and Pan Jianming were communicating with their divine consciousnesses. They were suspicious of Gu Fei's identity, but they guessed that Gu Fei was an old antique from the chaotic god of war palace. However, even if they had doubts, they did not dare to offend Gu Fei. One had to know that Gu Fei might be backed by the chaotic war deity palace. The people in the chaotic war deity palace were a bunch of terrifying lunatics. The consequences of offending them would be dire. In the end, Wang Chen and Pan Jianming achieved their goal. Regardless of whether this guy was from the chaotic god of war palace or not, it was better not to provoke this guy unless it was absolutely necessary. In the following days, Gu Fei immersed himself in the library of the Five Elements sect and read all the books of the Five Elements sect. However, a small sect like the Five Elements sect does not have many books. They have more than 10 books on cultivation, but most of them can only cultivate up to the worldly immortal realm. The cultivation method of the Five Elements sect could be said to be the most primitive cultivation method in the primordial realm. In the eyes of the disciples of the big sects, the Five Elements sect was nothing but trash. These two guys! Gu Fei was sitting cross-legged in a room. He could sense everything that was happening outside. He could also sense the secret conversation between Wang Chen and Pan Jianming. The voice transmission technique was right in front of him, but it sounded like it was right next to his ear. This was the terrifying power of Gu Fei's divine consciousness. An extreme-grade supremacy could split the sky and the earth with a single thought. Gu Fei's divine consciousness was at the extreme-grade supremacy level. With a single thought, he could directly control the life and death of others. In front of Gu Fei, both Wang Chen and Pan Jianming were trash. They were not even ants. It was ridiculous for an ant to plot against a giant dragon. This was because in the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks were useless. Time flew by and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. At this time, the celestial wolf city, which was not very lively before, was now full of people. There were even figures of divine sons and saintesses of other top forces around the celestial wolf mountain range. This was definitely not a good thing for Pan Jianming. Senior brother, someone saw a divine son of the Taiyu sacred ground in the celestial wolf city today. In a pavilion in the Five Elements immortal land of the Five Elements sect, Wang Qin transmitted his voice to Pan Jianming. What? Pan Jianming was shocked. If a divine son of the Taiyu sacred ground could find his way here, the other divine sons would definitely not be easy to deal with. Senior brother, what should we do? Should we clear the area? Wang Chen's eyes were filled with a murderous intent. Haha, why do we need to clear the area? Pan Jianming sneered. Senior brother, you are. Wang Chen thought of something and couldn't help but be shocked. Isn't it good to have someone scout for us? Pan Jianming's face darkened. Wang Chen was speechless. It seemed that his senior brother wanted to use those people as cannon fodder. Pan Jianming was very cunning, but he didn't know about Gu Fei's background. He was still thinking about how to trick people. Soon, a map that could lead to the Celestial Wolf Cave was circulated. The appearance of the map immediately caused a huge battle among the people gathered in the Celestial Wolf mountain range. Some cultivators started to die. Meanwhile, Wang Chen, Pan Jianming, and the others were watching the show from the side. Gu Fei watched the scene coldly but didn't say anything. The battle between the supreme talents of the primordial realm was earth-shattering. However, it was strange that even a quasi-supreme existence couldn't destroy the mountain range. Today is the day when the celestial wolf swallows the sun. An old voice suddenly sounded. The voice came from the celestial wolf city, but no one could sense where the voice came from. An expert! 3 people stood on a lone mountain outside the celestial wolf city. They were Gu Fei, Pan Jianming, and Wang Chan. I didn't expect such a person to exist in the small celestial wolf city. A gleam of light flashed through the depths of Pan Jianming's eyes. At this moment, the sun was high up in the sky, but the entire mountain range seemed to be enveloped by a layer of mist. It seemed vague. It was a very vague feeling. Yeah. Gu Fei sensed that there was an obscure power hidden within the city lord's estate, which surprised Gu Fei slightly. Pan Jianming, I never thought I'd actually see you here. At this moment, a figure made his way up from below. He arrived at the top of the mountain with just a few steps and stood before Gu Fei. The first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire? Pan Jianming paled in fright. This person had actually appeared here. He was the first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire. He was supreme, yet he had actually come here. It had to be mentioned that the Pingtian Divine Empire was a tremendous existence that could rival the heavenly sect of 5 elements. The first prince was the son of the current human emperor. The human emperor of the Pingtian Divine Empire was definitely a supreme existence. The first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire possessed a supreme legacy, and the legacy of the Pingtian Divine Empire was much better than the Skywolf Sovereign's legacy. Of course, Pan Jianming was the divine child of the heavenly sect of 5 elements. He was not afraid of the first prince, but he did not want to provoke him either. Greetings, first prince. Pan Jianming only clasped his hands towards the first prince. Greetings, your highness. Wang Qin had already bowed down. However, Gu Fei crossed his arms and looked at the first prince. He did not say anything. Brother Chu, don't be rude to the first prince. Wang Qin could not help but be surprised when he saw how Gu Fei did not pay any attention to the first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire. Was this guy still so arrogant even at a time like this? Even if this guy really was an old monster from the chaotic war god palace, so what? He should not have dared to slight the first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire. Tisk! Gu Fei smiled in disdain. He did not care at all. With that, both Wang Qin and Pan Jianming leapt in fright. Did this guy have a heaven-defying background? He actually dared to ignore the first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire? The first prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire could not be compared to the sacred prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire who had died in the chaotic immortal's estate. Although he was the sacred prince, he still had to refer to the first prince as Big Brother. His cultivation was not necessarily greater than the first prince's either. Even Pan Jianming, the divine child of the heavenly sect of 5 elements, did not dare to act impudently before the first prince. He had to lower himself, so Wang Qin would be even worse off. Hee, who are you? I've never seen you before. Although the first prince was dressed in white, his presence was extremely powerful. Dragon chi surged from him, and countless dragons seemed to revolve around him in the air. It was very shocking. If it were anyone else, they would have knelt long ago. Unfortunately, Gu Fei was no ordinary person. However, the first prince of Pingtian was not stupid. Since he could stand with Pan Jianming, he was naturally not weak either. Pan Jianming was the divine child of the heavenly sect of 5 elements, after all. Although he was not the strongest, his cultivation was extremely great. However, he was still nowhere close to Wang Qin. Who am I? I'm your grandfather. Chapter 4475. The Pingtian Empire was one of the peak organizations in the grand primordial world. It ruled over an area of hundreds of millions of kilometers. Who dared to disobey the human emperor's orders? In the past, the first prince of the Pingtian kingdom was suppressed by the sacred prince, so he had always been holding it in. He had held it in for over 1,000 years. Only when his younger brother, the sacred prince of the Pingtian kingdom, died in the chaotic immortal's residence in the chaotic crack did the day come for him. The sacred prince was just too dazzling. His talent was heaven-defying, and he had been taught by the human emperor since he was young. His cultivation was definitely one of the best among all the princes. The human emperor had lived for far too long, so he had many children. He had several dozen princes and several hundred grandsons. The imperial family of the Pingtian Divine Empire was a tremendous race. But now, the sacred prince had died. The human emperor was furious, but he could not personally go to the chaotic immortal's residence to avenge his son. As a result, he could only send the experts of his clan to the chaotic immortal's residence to capture the murderer. At this moment, the first prince, who had just risen up, came to the Celestial Wolf mountain range. He wanted to obtain the Celestial Wolf Sovereign's legacy. Actually, he had come for an item in the Celestial Wolf dwelling. To the first prince, although the Celestial Wolf Sovereign was extremely powerful and had once shaken up an entire region, the supreme legacy of the Pingtian Empire was not necessarily inferior to the Celestial Wolf Sovereign's legacy. At this moment, the god of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect, Pan Jianming, and the sect master of the Five Elements Sect, Wang Qin, almost knelt down in fright from what Gu Fei had said. How dare this guy be so rude to the first prince? I'm your uncle! The two of them were directly rendered speechless by Gu Fei's words. Swish! They directly charged past Gu Fei. Once the first prince of Pingtian was angered, it would be no small matter. However, although the first prince of Pingtian was taken aback, he did not fly into a rage. Instead, he cast a grim look at the young cultivator before him. Soul formation? The young cultivator's cultivation was far too low for the first prince of Pingtian. He was like an ant that he could squash to death with a single finger. However, he was very shrewd. After waiting for 1,000 years, he finally had the day where he could make a name for himself. Naturally, he advanced step by step and did not dare to be careless. It was exactly because his younger brother, the sacred prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire, was too dazzling and too forceful that he offended people easily and was easily killed off. What sort of place was the primal chaos immortal abode? That was not the backyard of the Pingtian Divine Empire where they could do whatever they wanted. Just as the first prince had expected, something really did happen to the sacred prince of the Divine Empire who had stood out too much this time. Moreover, the sacred prince had lost his life in the chaotic immortal's residence this time. After all, the sacred prince was his younger brother. Now that the sacred prince had died, it was only natural that he would feel a little sad. Rulers were the most heartless. The first prince of Pingtian actually hoped that the sacred prince would die sooner. What's wrong with soul formation cultivators? Gu Fei looked at the first prince with interest. The Pingtian Empire was a tremendous existence in the primordial world, but no matter how powerful it was, it definitely could not match up to the Tian clan of the ancestral world. Gu Fei did not even fear the Tian clan, the Li family, and the Chu family of the ancestral world, so why would he care about the Pingtian Empire? The so-called first prince of Pingtian was a big shot in the eyes of Pan Jianming and Wang Qin, but he was nothing in the eyes of Gu Fei. Sir Divine Son, your friend is quite interesting. The first prince turned around and said to Pan Jianming, who was already halfway up the mountain. TCH, both of you are cowards, Gu Fei said disdainfully. Hee hee. The corner of Pan Jianming's mouth twitched, and he looked embarrassed. Wang Qin also wished that the ground would crack open so that he could crawl into it. First Prince, Your Highness. Pan Jianming and Wang Qin returned to the top of the mountain. Originally they thought the first prince would lose his temper, but unexpectedly, he did not become enraged. At this moment, the Celestial Wolf mountain range was very lively. A few powerful figures would appear in the mountain range from time to time. They were all searching for the entrance to the Celestial Wolf dwelling. Wang Qin had also sent out all of his subordinates to search for the entrance frantically. However, the Celestial Wolf mountain range was just too large. Even powerful cultivators were unable to find the entrance in a short amount of time. Sir, why don't we sit down and have a drink and chat? The first prince said as he directly opened his inner world. He took out a table, a chair, and a jar of aged alcohol before inviting everyone to take a seat. Gu Fei did not hold back. He directly pulled over a chair and sat down. Wang Qin and Pan Jianming sat down as well. At this moment, the first prince took out a beast's leg and placed it in his hand. It was a beast's leg that he had already prepared. Its skin and flesh were actually golden, as if it was made from gold. A ball of golden flames surged out from the first prince's hand. It enveloped the beast's leg and slowly roasted it. Very soon, the fragrance of meat spread out from the top of the mountain. Is that the leg of a crimson gold dragon beast? Penjamin stared at the beast's leg in the first prince's hand in disbelief. A powerful energy ripple spread out from the leg. Not only was the first prince roasting the meat, but he was also refining the impurities within the beast's leg. He was purifying the spiritual substance within the leg. The leg of a crimson gold dragon beast? Wang Chun was truly frightened. This was a crimson gold dragon beast. Even a cub possessed the strength of an enemy immortal. An adult crimson gold dragon beast could even eat immortal emperors alive. This was because the crimson gold dragon beast possessed the bloodline of the dragon race. Moreover, it was not the bloodline of a mixed dragon, but the true bloodline of an ancestral dragon. The ancestral dragon of the primordial world was extremely powerful. It could fight against immortal exalts who were quasi-exalts. If they took another step forward, they could reach the extreme way and become an exalt. Even if there was only a sliver of such a supreme bloodline, it was enough to make a creature like the crimson gold dragon beast so powerful that even immortals would tremble. You really know how to enjoy yourself? Gu Fei looked at the first prince with an indiscernible smile. This person was definitely a formidable existence. He could endure what others could not. People like him were very shrewd. All right, it's done. The first prince dismissed the flames and placed the roasted leg on the table. Please. You're welcome. As the first prince spoke, he directly tore off a piece of shiny, golden beast meat from the beast's leg and began eating it. Gu Fei smiled and started moving as well. Hee, not bad. It's really not bad. Your culinary skills are definitely at the level of the god of cooking. It's a pity that you don't become a chef, Gu Fei said while eating. It's just something I use to kill time when I'm bored. The first prince of Pingtian smiled. He had endured for so long before he finally stood up, so he was naturally happy in his heart. But his intuition told him that this little guy in the deity transformation realm was very likely not as simple as he appeared on the surface. It was very abnormal for a mere deity transformation realm cultivator to act so impudently before him. There was definitely something wrong with this. The first prince of Pingtian had always been cautious, so he decided to wait and see. He would not attack Gu Fei unless he was completely confident. Unless he could prove that Gu Fei was only a deity transformation realm cultivator, he would directly kill Gu Fei without any hesitation. Right now, he would just play around with these people. Gu Fei did not care about what the first prince of Pingtian was thinking. He could not be bothered with that either. Before absolute power, all schemes would be useless. However, Pan Jiaming and Wang Chun smiled and dealt with him carefully. They even tried to get on the first prince's good side. The four of them drank and ate on the mountain top. They ate large bowls of alcohol and large pieces of meat. They were very happy. Isn't that Big Brother? You're actually in the mood to drink and eat here? At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from the sky. Gu Fei raised his head and saw a purple-robed young man with a golden crown descend from the sky on an extremely vicious beast. He landed on the mountain top. Your Highness, the third prince. There was a large group of people behind the person. Among them, there were two old men who gave off a very shocking aura. Even Gu Fei could not help but take a few extra glances at the two old men. Third brother? Do you want to drink a few bowls as well? The first prince stood up. Compared to the entourage of the third prince, he kept a very low profile. This was because the first prince knew very well that only those who kept a low profile would be able to last long. If they were too eye-catching, they would only attract enemies and make others hate them. I'm not as carefree as you, big brother. The third prince had a good appearance. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, but the look in his eyes was rather unkind. It was rather sinister, giving off a sly feeling. Now that the sacred prince had died in the immortal residence of chaos, the princes who had always been hiding immediately saw hope. Every single one of them had a chance to fight for the position of sacred prince. The third prince of Pingtian was also a vicious person. In a short amount of time, he had gathered countless people. More accurately speaking, the third prince of Pingtian had been secretly preparing a long time ago. Once the sacred prince died, he would directly appear and show off his muscles to the other princes. There's actually an ant here? The third prince glanced at Gu Fei and said coldly. An ant? Gu Fei smiled. He directly picked up the bowl of alcohol in front of him and gulped it down. Afterwards, he tore off a piece of beast meat and began to eat it. The third prince is here. Why aren't you coming over and kowtowing, you ant? A middle-aged man beside the third prince called out to Gu Fei. Everyone looked at Gu Fei. A measly ant like him had no right to stand on equal footing with the princes of the Pingtian Empire. An ant sitting there was very eye-catching. Even the first prince looked at Gu Fei and said nothing. You're an ant! Originally, Gu Fei did not want to pay any attention to the third prince, but he was just too arrogant. Even his lackeys dared to ask him to kneel. He really was reckless. What did you say? Chapter 4476. The third prince of the Pingtian Empire possessed the true bloodline of a supreme human emperor. His bloodline was extremely powerful. However, although the bloodline of the extreme laws was powerful and would be of great help in the early stages of cultivation, once the bloodline was awakened, his cultivation speed would be several times or even over a dozen times faster than others. However, when he cultivated to the limit, the bloodline of the extreme laws would stop him from making the final leap, firmly stopping him from reaching the extreme laws. Some people would never have the opportunity to break through the shackles of their bloodline, unable to make the final leap. However, nothing was absolute. Whether it was the primeval world or the ancestral world, miracles had happened in the history of cultivation in the two primordial worlds. There were people who successfully severed their father's bloodline and embarked on their own path of extreme laws. It was impossible to change one's bloodline. Whether it was the supreme genius, the sacred prince of Pingtian, the first prince of Pingtian, or the third prince of Pingtian, they had all reached the level of immortal exalts. However, it was extremely difficult for them to improve further. It was said that there was an item in the celestial wolf sovereign's dwelling that could allow them to sever their bloodline of extreme laws and forge their own path. This was also the reason why the first prince and the third prince had appeared in the celestial wolf mountain range. That item was just too important to them. If the sacred prince of Pingtian had not died in the chaotic immortal's dwelling, he would have rushed over as well. However, he no longer had the chance. At this moment, a cold murderous aura erupted from a mountain outside the celestial wolf mountain range. How dare you disrespect the third prince? You deserve to die! A pale-skinned, beardless, middle-aged attendant pointed at Gu Fei. His voice was sharp and strange. Tisk, so it's a eunuch. Do you have no subordinates, you shitty prince? Since when is it up to a non-male fellow to point fingers in front of others? Gu Fei smiled gently. What did you say? As if someone had grabbed the middle-aged attendant by the throat, his eyes widened and his face reddened. His finger trembled as he pointed at Gu Fei. Kill him! An old man beside the third prince of Pingtian said indifferently. Yes! A general clad in golden armor stepped out and slashed at Gu Fei with the halberd in his hand. He was decisive and had no hesitation. Whoosh! Pen Jianming and Wang Chen slipped away again, faster than rabbits. Only the first prince remained seated, but he did not do anything. Clearly, he wanted to use his third brother to test out Gu Fei. Although Pan Jianming was the divine son of the five-element sky sect, he didn't have the bearing that a divine son should have. His methods of seeking fortune and avoiding calamity were superior. Although it was said to seek fortune and avoid calamity, it was actually an ability to escape. When the gold warlord made a move, Gu Fei was still smiling and did not take this warlord seriously at all. A puny soul formation cultivator actually ignored the attack of a celestial general? He must be scared silly. He's dead for sure. The third prince's followers looked at Gu Fei. In their eyes, Gu Fei was already a dead man. To them, soul formation cultivators were a joke. Those who wanted to be the third prince's followers had to be immortal emperors at the very least. The two old men beside the third prince were even immortal exalts. In the ancestral world, they would be quasi-sovereigns. Just when everyone thought that Gu Fei would be cleaved in half by the celestial general's attack, the halberd in front of Gu Fei suddenly changed direction and slashed back at the celestial general. The celestial general was shocked. He tilted his body and dodged the halberd, which made him break out in a cold sweat. How is this possible? The third prince's followers were dumbfounded. They could not believe it. What was going on? Even with their cultivation, they were unable to tell how Gu Fei had managed to turn the celestial general's attack around. What just happened? One of the third prince's followers rubbed his eyes hard. Ability? Secret technique? Even the expressions of the two old men beside the third prince became grim. Interesting. The third prince smiled. The ferocious beast beneath him roared, and a terrifying fiendish aura erupted from the beast. Even the third prince's followers were shocked. You want to kill me? Do you have what it takes? Gu Fei said in disdain. You! The celestial general was both shocked and furious. In the next moment, he opened his mouth and spat out an immortal fire towards Gu Fei. As soon as the immortal fire appeared, the entire mountain seemed to have turned into a furnace. The soil and rocks on the ground melted directly. Humph! The eldest prince laughed coldly. At the next moment, a gust of celestial light instantly enveloped him, blocking the celestial fire that was coming at him. He did not protect Gu Fei. Humph humph! Gu Fei remained smug. He had no intention of doing anything at all. At that moment, everyone stared at Gu Fei without blinking at all. This time, they were going to watch seriously. They were going to watch with all their might just what kind of ability or secret technique this ant-like fellow had that could block the immortal fire from the celestial general. However, everyone was dumbfounded once again. The ant did not give off any ripples of energy at all. Afterwards, the immortal fire that was burning towards him suddenly rebounded towards the celestial general for some reason. He can even reverse that? Even the third prince of Pingtian frowned. How strange! I don't understand. The expressions of the two old men beside the third prince became extremely grim. Boom! The immortal fire that was rebounded directly drowned the celestial general. In the next moment, the celestial general retracted the fire. His entire body was charred, and his golden armor was in tatters. Black smoke was even rising from the top of his head. The third prince's followers wanted to laugh, but they did not dare to. At that moment, the celestial general completely lost his temper. His immortal fire was the true fire that he had cultivated his entire life. It could smelt even godly metal. If it were any other celestial general, they would have been burned to death by the true fire a long time ago. What secret technique is this? Even the first prince was very confused and shocked, as even he could not tell how Gu Fei had done it. Or rather, he had not done anything at all. Instead, he had been defending passively. The defensive technique was rather impressive. Not only could it be used to defend, but it could also be used to counterattack. I'm standing right here. Come and kill me if you dare, you trash! Gu Fei crossed his arms and said scornfully. How dare a mere ant act so impudently before the third prince? The middle-aged eunuch said furiously. I say, you're either a man nor a woman, yet you still dare to show your face in public. If I were you, I would find a brick and smash myself to death a long time ago. How embarrassing! Gu Fei shook his head and sighed. He did not pity the damned eunuch. No matter where or what world he was in, there would always be people like him. It was not just the eternal empires. Even some large clans had the tradition of raising these people who were either a man nor a woman. The reason why people like them appeared was actually very simple. They wanted to maintain the purity of their bloodline. This was the simplest and most direct method. You deserve to die! The person screamed and directly attacked. A ball of dark light immediately surged from his body, and the temperature of the surroundings plummeted rapidly. The surrounding space seemed to freeze up. Lunar force? Gu Fei was rather surprised. This person, who was neither a man nor a woman, actually cultivated lunar force. No wonder he had chosen to castrate himself, enter the Pingtian Empire, and become a damned eunuch. Of course, it was not necessary to castrate oneself in order to cultivate lunar force. Perhaps it was due to the cultivation method that the person had chosen to castrate himself. I'd like to see how you turn around my attack this time. The middle-aged eunuch sneered inside. The middle-aged attendant sneered in his heart. This kind of colding energy was invisible and formless. How was he supposed to block it? The immortal's fire was tangible, but the power of coldness was untraceable. This was because it could not be seen at all. By the time he sensed the coldness, it was already too late. However, Gu Fei continued to stand there. He continued to smile. His lips curled up, and there was a sliver of disdain in the coldness. What? The middle-aged eunuch could not help but be surprised when he saw this. Could he even block an attack like that? How was that possible? However, in the next moment, the middle-aged eunuch directly turned into an ice sculpture before everyone's eyes. He was immediately frozen. Everyone was directly dumbfounded. Humph! The old man beside the third prince moved. One of them waved his hand and blocked the coldness, while the other pointed at Gu Fei. An extremely sharp streak of light immediately shot out from the old man's finger, shooting towards the center of Gu Fei's eyebrows in a single moment. This was a strike from an immortal exalt. Wherever the light passed by, space would ripple. However, in the next moment, the streak of light directly reflected back at the old man. Fortunately, the old man was already prepared, so he directly dodged the reflected light. However, an unlucky person behind the old man was the one to suffer. The streak of light directly pierced his body. All he could do was let out a miserable shriek before he was reduced to ashes. Even his soul dispersed in space. This was the destruction of both body and soul. Swish! The third prince's followers immediately dispersed and dodged. They were only following the third prince of Pingtian. They did not want to die. This little fellow was just too strange. On the surface, he was just an ant at the divine transformation realm, but it seemed like immortals could destroy his soul with a single blow. However, the reality was that the ant seemed to be undefeatable. He could even turn back the attack of an immortal exalt. Was he trying to defy the heavens? Everyone's gaze towards Gu Fei changed. A mere soul formation stage ant actually caused a group of immortal Tao powerhouses to be helpless. This was simply a miracle. How did he do it? Even if Gu Fei wanted to recultivate by seizing a body, it would be impossible for him to fight against an immortal Venerable right after seizing a body. Ha ha! A bunch of trash! I'll just stand here and let you kill me! Gu Fei crossed his arms and looked at the group of people in disdain as he laughed. In his eyes, whether it be the first prince of Pingtian or the third prince, they were just brats who were still wet behind the ears. They were just abusing their fathers. One must know that the grand beginning realm never lacked extreme Tao saint immortals. Those existences were existences that even human Emperor Pingtian dared to oppose. Who the hell are you? An old man with white hair and beard beside the third prince stared at Gu Fei and said in a deep voice. He was as plump as a ball. His name was Zongchen, and he was an ancestor of the Zong family of the Grand Beginning Realm. The Zong family was a powerful clan in the Pingtian Divine Empire, and they supported the third prince. The first prince also had the support of an organization behind him. The Pingtian Divine Empire was not as united as it seemed on the surface. There were many factions in the empire, and there were many hidden factions. Ever since the death of the sacred Prince Pingtian, the other princes became restless. However, most of the princes kept a low profile right now, while the third prince was extremely high profile. Who am I? You don't have the right to know. Gu Fei glanced at the old man and said indifferently. How arrogant! Do you think you're an extreme Tao saint immortal? The expressions of the two old men immediately changed. Even the followers of the third prince were quite frightened by Gu Fei. How dare he look down on immortal Exalt Zongchen like this? Zongchen was one of the few experts in the entire Pingtian Divine Empire. It was exactly because of Zongchen and Zongfeng's support that the third prince could be so high profile. He wanted people to know that he, the third prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire, had obtained the full support of the Zong family. Brat, don't think that you can look down on us just because you have a secret treasure to protect you. Even human Emperor Pingtian has to be polite to us. Who do you think you are? Zong Feng, who was as skinny as a bamboo pole, stared at Gu Fei and coldly spoke. A powerful pressure erupted from his body as boundless immortal light radiated. It was as if countless stars were exploding around him, terrifying to the extreme. He cultivates the force of stars? Gu Fei was rather surprised. These people were not weaklings. The damned eunuch cultivated the force of Yin, while the immortal general who had attacked him before cultivated the force of fire. They were all peak powers in the world. It seemed like the legacies here were extraordinary as well. They were no worse than the ancestral world. Once these people displayed their might, they would all be extraordinary. Sword Chi would surge into the sky, or they would be like the sun or the golden crow. Stars would revolve around them like a universe. Countless dragons vaguely appeared around the third prince. Terrifying dragon might surged into the surroundings, suppressing the vicious beast beneath him into submission. The vicious beast was different. It was a true divine beast, and it was far from adulthood. However, even with that being the case, the divine beast was extraordinary. It could rival immortal kings. If it were an adult golden dragon lion, it would be an existence that could rival immortal exalts. I've already said that I'm standing right here. Come and kill me if you can, Gu Fei said in an unperturbed tone. You! No one dared to act rashly. There was an inexplicable Taoist charm lingering around this guy's body. No one could tell what the secret treasure on his body was. Cast down the killing formation and refine him to death. The third prince, Yensun, looked at Gu Fei indifferently. Yes, your highness. The two immortal venerables, Zong Chen and Zong Feng, hurriedly accepted the order. In the next moment, a ray disc flew out from the hands of the two immortal venerables and smashed towards Gu Fei. Boom! 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 The formation discs were activated one after another. Countless inscriptions erupted, immediately enveloping the space where Gu Fei was. Killing intent surged into the sky. What's happening over there? Shocking killing intent! The killing intent that erupted from the top of the mountain was just too powerful. It directly alarmed countless cultivators in the Celestial Wolf Mountain range. Chapter 4478. The Zong family was a large clan in the Pingtian Empire. They were very powerful. Every single generation of the Zong family would have experts who held important positions in the Pingtian Empire. The current general of the Pingtian Empire was the current patriarch of the Zong family, Zong Yan. The current patriarch of the Zong family had been personally appointed as the general of Pingtian by the human emperor. He was in charge of the million-strong army of Pingtian City, and was favored by the human emperor. Actually, the general of Pingtian was just an empty title. So what if he was in charge of the million-strong army? A supreme saint immortal could wipe them all out with a flick of their fingers. True supreme figures only cared about their cultivation and battle prowess. Nothing else mattered. Rumble! Killing formations activated one after another on the mountain top, stacking on top of one another. Endless killing intent erupted from the mountain top, causing the surroundings to change color. The killing formation at the very center was the fire formation of heaven. When it activated, it directly turned the space where Gu Fei stood into a terrifying cauldron. Every inch of space was filled with flames that could even melt divine metal. However, what made the two immortal venerables want to vomit blood was that the ant in the formation was still standing there with a smile on his face. The monstrous heavenly fire couldn't even get close to the ant. To everyone's disbelief, the flames that flew towards Gu Fei were actually reversed. The entire fire formation of heaven shook. He was actually using the power of the fire formation of heaven to fend off the fire formation of heaven. Clang! At this moment, another killing formation was activated. A soaring sword light and peerless saber chi violently hacked into the heavenly fire formation. Its target was Gu Fei, who was within the heavenly fire formation. That's the immortal slaughtering formation of 1,000 blades and swords! Someone cried out. Someone cried out in surprise. The saber chi and sword light that erupted from this killing formation were incomparably terrifying. Every sword light was like the sword light that a peerless swordsman had slashed out, sharp to the extreme. This was an existence that could kill immortal emperors. It could even trap immortal exalts. Using a killing formation of this level to deal with a deity transformation stage ant who wasn't even an immortal was no different from using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. However, to everyone's surprise, even the immortal punishing sword and 1,000 sabers formation could not do anything to Gu Fei. Countless sword lights and saber chi were reversed the moment they reached Gu Fei's body. Kill! Gu Fei was like a peerless demon king. He directed all of the reverse sword light and saber chi toward the third prince of Pingtian. That is, when they suddenly saw countless sword lights slashing down on them, they were all shocked. The third prince's followers immediately scattered and fled. The sword light could be seen, but the saber energy was invisible. Even though they fled quickly enough, the unlucky ones among the third prince's followers were directly pierced by the light. Even their souls were destroyed, and they died on the spot. One of the immortal emperors, who was desperately trying to escape, was suddenly split in half. Rise! The third prince of Pingtian waved his right hand, and a ball of immortal light immediately rushed out from his hand. It enveloped him, and the countless sword lights and saber chi were all blocked when they landed on the ball of immortal light. At this moment, the first prince Yan Zhao had already retreated to the sky far away. He could not help but feel shocked when he saw this. Fortunately, he did not attack Chu Xiaoyan earlier. Otherwise, he would probably be in a difficult position. Now, his third brother was the unlucky one. The first prince Yan Zhao was happy to see his third brother, Yan Sun, suffer. This guy is a freak! In the sky elsewhere, Pan Jianming and Wang Chen were utterly shocked by Gu Fei's performance. Even the killing formation could not kill him. How did he do it? Could he really have a heaven-defying secret treasure on him? Pan Jianming was the divine child of the Five Elements Heaven sect. He knew very well that even if Chu Xiaoyun really had a supreme immortal weapon on him, it would require a tremendous amount of immortal power to activate it. How could a mere divine transformation stage cultivator who was not even an immortal use a supreme immortal weapon? This guy is not only a freak, he's a super freak. Wang Chen nodded his head seriously. At this moment, the killing formations unleashed their might one after another. Earth, water, wind, fire, all sorts of terrifying energies erupted. All of them were under the control of the two immortal venerables from the Zone clan, and they all rushed towards Gu Fei. However, Gu Fei just stood there with his arms crossed, not doing anything. All the destructive energies that were rushing towards him could not get close to him. All sorts of energies converged together, erupting into a super terrifying energy wave. The entire mountain peak and the entire void was trembling. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This was the primordial world. The void of heaven and earth was extremely stable. Even immortal emperors and immortal venerables would find it difficult to shake this part of heaven and earth. But right now, the amount of power that was bursting forth from those killing formations was simply way too strong, causing the entire heaven and earth to quake. Is that the Zone clan's immortal venerables? Someone exclaimed. At this moment, numerous powerful silhouettes appeared in the vicinity. This battle had alarmed all the cultivators in the Skywolf mountain range. Zong Chen and Zong Feng, these two old fellows actually joined forces to deal with a little brat. These two fellows are getting more and more backwards. Someone spoke in disdain. One must know that the two old ancestors of the Zone clan were famous immortal venerables of the older generation. It was truly beneath their status to act against the little brat. But now, Zong Chen and Zong Feng were already riding a tiger. It was hard for them to get off. They could only desperately activate the killing formations, wanting to refine Gu Fei. I say, you two old fellows, you guys better save your strength. Gu Fei could sense the existence of the two immortal venerables from the Zone clan. One couldn't help but to say that these two immortal venerables' comprehension and cultivation bases were already very deep. Even when compared to that fellow He Tian, they weren't inferior at all. Kill! The Zone clan brothers wanted to kill Gu Fei. They desperately activated the power of the killing formations, wanting to kill Gu Fei. However, all of their power was reversed. Yi Futian was basically in an invincible position. Alright, let's stop here. Gu Fei didn't want to play with these fellows anymore. He immediately took out a talisman. Haha, you want to use a talisman to break the formation? Zong Qin and Zong Feng laughed out loud. Run! At this moment, outside the killing formations, the third Prince Yen Sun, who was originally calm, hurriedly rode the golden dragon lion and soared into the sky when he saw Gu Fei take out the talisman. Just as the third Prince Yen Sun fled, Gu Fei had already used the talisman in his hand. At the next moment, boundless divine light radiated from the talisman. Everything that was illuminated by the divine light was instantly turned into ashes. Countless formation runes dissipated in the void. The two immortal venerables from the Zone clan coughed up blood. At this moment, the killing formations had already gone out of control. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound rang out and the entire mountain exploded. Dust rose into the sky. That ant should be dead now, right? Chapter 4479. The Zone clan of the Pingtian Divine Empire was a cultivation clan that focused on the way of formations. This clan was very famous even in the cultivation world of the primordial world. The way of formations was not something that just anyone could cultivate. Moreover, cultivating the way of formations was much more difficult than regular cultivation methods. The Zone clan did not have any Supreme Saint Immortals, but they did have immortal exalts. In particular, the two ancestors, Zong Qun and Zong Feng, were the cornerstones of the clan. With the assistance of Zong Qun and Zong Feng, the third prince definitely had the upper hand in the battle for the throne. Even the first prince was very low profile right now. Actually, the two ancestors of the Zone clan had indirectly revealed some of the human Emperor Pingtian's thoughts to the other princes by supporting the third prince. Who was the greatest support of the Zone clan? The human Emperor Pingtian. The Zone clan did not have any Supreme Saint Immortals. This was their greatest sorrow because they had no choice but to rely on the human Emperor Pingtian. Otherwise, the Zone clan would be in great danger. When the way of formations was cultivated to the limit, it was possible to reach the Supreme Tao, but it was very difficult. The Zone clan had never produced a Supreme Saint Immortal, so they did not have a divine formation to protect them. If a Supreme Saint Immortal came to invade, they would not be able to block a single slap from the Supreme Saint Immortal no matter how many formations there were. However, the Zone clan's way of formations was very useful. The Pingtian Divine Empire relied on the Zone clan's way of formations to dominate the world and fend off peak organizations. Without a doubt, the two ancestors of the Zone clan were the human Emperor Pingtian's trusted aides. Human Emperor Pingtian's trusted aides supported the third prince. In other words, human Emperor Pingtian might be interested in the third prince. Was the third prince going to become the sacred prince? The various organizations in the city were all guessing and observing. None of them dared to choose a side so easily. If they chose the wrong side, the consequences would be very severe. It was even possible for their entire clan to be wiped out. However, the third prince had the upper hand right now. The chances of the other princes competing against the third prince for the position of sacred prince were not high at all. This was also the reason why the third prince was so high-profile and arrogant. In his opinion, the position of the sacred prince belonged to no one but him. In his eyes he was full of himself, but in the eyes of others, he was overconfident. Rumble! At this moment, a short mountain on the outskirts of the Celestial Wolf Mountain range exploded. Dust rose into the sky and endless array patterns emerged in the void. However, the moment the formation pattern appeared, it was immediately annihilated in the void. The power that was released was definitely destructive. Formation disks collapsed one after another, killing formations collapsing. Wave after wave of destructive power erupted, obliterating everything. The ground sank, and a huge crater appeared. At the location of the short mountain, the void seemed to have turned into primal chaos. All kinds of powers interweaved, and dazzling lightning tore through the void. This, Third Prince Pingtian's followers were all dumbfounded when they saw this. The power was just too terrifying, and it was probably close to extreme power. At this moment, Zhong Chun and Zhong Feng's hearts were bleeding. That was a formation plate that they had refined for countless years, and it was destroyed just like that. It was not an easy task to refine every array disk. In order to construct an array disk, especially an immortal venerable level array disk, one needed rare divine materials. Only such divine materials could withstand the formidable power of the array Tao. Rare materials were difficult to find, and the amount of effort needed to refine a formation plate was unimaginable for others. Every single formation plate in the hands of the two ancestors of the Zone clan was worth an astronomical price. They were comparable to peerless divine fruits. It was impossible for others to obtain a formation plate like that. But now, over 10 of the formation plates that the two ancestors had personally refined had been destroyed. Even the two ancestors of the Zone clan wanted to vomit blood at such a loss. "It's not worth it!" The two ancestors of the Zone clan stared at the dust before them with long faces. The destructive power surged over, but the two of them ignored it. "That ant!" Zone Chen's face twitched. "He died just like that." In the sky, the first prince remained calm. He was very shrewd and would not reveal his emotions so easily. That way, others would not be able to guess what he was thinking. His instincts told him that the person called Chu Xiaoyun was not as simple as he seemed. However, the power unleashed by the self-destruction of the formation plates was just too great. Could Chu Xiaoyun really block it? He was at the center of the layers of killing formations. Humph, he deserves to die for being so impudent before the third prince. The followers of the third prince were both surprised and overjoyed. "He's dead?" Pen Jianming and Wang Qin, who fled even faster than rabbits, were speechless when they saw this. A divine transformation brat had actually made the two ancestors of the Zone clan bleed so much. TSK, over 10 formation plates, and they're all at the immortal venerable level. Pen Jianming also felt his heart ache for the two ancestors of the Zone clan. The Five Elements Heavenly Sect was a peak organization. There were formation masters in the Five Elements Heavenly Sect, but compared to the Zone clan, the formation masters of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect were like children who had just learned how to walk. Haha, the Pingtian Divine Dynasty sure is wealthy. Even a prince has 2 immortal venerables. At this moment, a loud laugh rang out. Afterwards, a figure with surging demonic aura broke through the clouds. He took a step and directly arrived nearby. "The godchild of the demon palace?" The third prince raised his eyelids and looked at the figure that shone with boundless demonic light in the sky like a demonic sun. As a peak organization of the primordial world, the demon palace obviously had more than just one godchild. It's Xue Tushin. That guy's a madman. Why has he come as well? Pen Jianming could not help but be surprised when he saw the demonic expert. "He's Xue Tushin." Wang Qin was shocked when he heard that. Xue Tushin really was a madman. This guy had once massacred an entire city just because someone had underestimated him, leaving nothing behind. Xue Tushin was the most murderous out of all the god children of the demon palace. "What are you doing here, you madman? We don't welcome you." A follower of the third prince leapt forward and called out while pointing at the god child in the sky. "How dare you!" Xue Tushin's face immediately sank. In the next moment, the third prince's follower suddenly cried out miserably and directly fell out of the sky. "Xue Tushin, you dash!" The eunuch beside the third prince screamed out again. The third prince's follower fell out of the sky and struggled violently on the ground. His body was covered in blood as if there was something inside him. Countless venomous insects seemed to be crawling about in the follower's body, tearing at him. Very soon, he was reduced to a bag of bones. Poof! With a soft sound, countless black poisonous insects broke out of the body of the third prince's follower, and flew out. The venomous insects directly vanished as soon as they emerged, which surprised everyone. The venomous insects had eaten an immortal emperor alive. Venomous insects that can eat an immortal emperor? Even the third prince's eyebrows twitched. Arg! Something's burrowed into my body. Roar! It's a venomous insect! A dozen of the third prince's followers suddenly cried out miserably. Then, under everyone's horrified gazes, they were all eaten by the venomous insects. Humph! The old ancestor of the Zong clan, Zong Chen, suddenly waved his hands as over 10 venomous bugs appeared in the air before exploding apart. Zong Feng also killed a dozen venomous insects with a wave of his hand. Spirit-devouring insects of the void? The first prince's expression turned a little unsightly. These venomous insects could even eat immortal emperors. It was truly terrifying. Moreover, the venomous insect's reproductive ability was too strong. Chapter 4480. The god's son of the Purgatory Demon Palace, Xue Tuxin, was incomparably ferocious. He was definitely a god of slaughter in the primordial world. As long as he could kill his opponent, he would do anything. He had used the terrifying void god devouring bugs to kill more than 10 immortal Emperor Realm followers of the third prince of Pingtian, Yan Sun. He could be said to be extremely sinister and cunning. Although the third prince Yan Sun was extremely furious, he still calmly collected the void god devouring bugs with a jade bottle. Blood Massacre God allowed third prince Yan Sun to take away the void god devouring insect. He did not stop him because he had the void god devouring insect king. The void god devouring insects were creatures that lived in swarms. There was bound to be an insect king in a swarm of them. This insect king was incomparably powerful and could even threaten immortal venerables. Moreover, only with the worm king in hand could he control the swarm of void spirit-eating bugs. Moreover, the worm king's reproduction ability was astonishing. Therefore, even if the third prince Yan Sun took away the swarm of void spirit-eating bugs, he would not care. Just when the third prince Pingtian and the god son of the Purgatory Demon Palace were about to fight, a discordant voice suddenly rang out. He's actually not dead? Everyone was shocked. How could this fellow not be dead? That was the power of over 10 killing formations exploding. How could it not kill him? The immortal Venerable grade formation plate that the 2 old ancestors of the Zong clan had painstakingly refined was destroyed. The 2 old ancestors of the Zong clan, Zong Chen and Zong Feng, couldn't help but cough out a mouthful of blood when they saw the figure walking out from the dust. This monster! Old ancestor Zong Feng almost fainted from the shock. Could this fellow be an extreme Dao Saint immortal? Is he pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger? Zong Chen's voice trembled when he thought of this. Extreme Dao Saint immortal? The third prince Yan Sun's brows twitched when he heard Zong Chen's words. Gu Fei walked out from the void with his hands clasped behind his back. He glanced at the crowd indifferently before his gaze landed on the god's son of the Purgatory Demon Palace, Xue Tuxin. Those insects are not bad. They look fun. Hand over the insect king! Gu Fei's tone sounded like he was ordering Xue Tuxin. Do you know who I am? Xue Tuxin sneered at Gu Fei. Who are you? Are you stronger than trash like them? Gu Fei pointed at the third prince of Pingtian, Yan Sun, and the others. Humph! Your life is really tough. You didn't die even after that. It was as if the sun and moon were sinking in Yan Sun's eyes. A terrifying aura surged out from his body, and there were visible ripples in the surrounding space. Dragons appeared around the third prince one after another. Although they were only illusions, the powerful presence they gave off left Zong Chen and Zong Feng, the ancestors of the 2 clans, in the dust. Your Highness the third prince. The 2 ancestors of the Zong clan were incomparably shocked. Although they knew that the third prince was very strong, they didn't expect him to already have half a foot in the extreme Dao Saint immortal realm. If it were not for the shackles of his bloodline, the third prince probably would have made the final leap and become the second extreme Dao Saint immortal of the Divine Empire. The shackles of his bloodline were just too powerful. It was far more difficult for the descendants of extreme Tao Saint Immortals to become extreme Tao Saint Immortals than ordinary people. The bloodline of extreme Tao Saint Immortals was like an insurmountable mountain before them. Some descendants of extreme Tao Saint Immortals could never become extreme Tao Saint Immortals. Even people with great willpower and wisdom were basically unable to achieve that. However, there was an ancient legend in the primal beginning world. There was an item in the world that could allow cultivators to defy the heavens and change their fate, allowing them to reconstruct themselves and sever all past karma. However, that kind of supreme godly item was even rarer than the immortal godly medicine. It was practically impossible to find such a supreme godly item. Otherwise, there were so many extreme Tao Saint Immortals in the primal beginning world that they would have found a supreme divine might for their descendants long ago so that they could break through to the extreme Tao. The old turtle, Qin Yao, and so on were all descendants of extreme Tao Saint Immortals. Even Gu Ling was a descendant of extreme Tao Saint Immortals. Although Gu Ling was not born when Gu Fei was still at extreme Tao Saint Immortal, she still possessed Gu Fei's bloodline. As Gu Fei's cultivation rapidly increased, Gu Ling's bloodline would gradually evolve as well. The connection between the bloodlines was extremely profound and wondrous. It was indescribable, but there would always be a reaction. Now that Gu Fei had returned to extreme Tao Saint Immortal, he no longer needed to use his life lamp or life tablet to sense whether Gu Ling was alive or not. No matter where Gu Ling was now, even if she had entered another world, Gu Fei could still vaguely sense his daughter's life force. It was said that the Skywolf Sovereign had obtained a supreme divine item that could sever all karma from cultivators. However, the Skywolf Sovereign was vicious to his enemies, and even more vicious to himself. He had actually created an extremely terrifying tomb for himself. Even supreme exalts would face certain death if they entered. One must know that the Skywolf Sovereign was someone who had obtained great fortune and had once dominated a region of the primal beginning world. At this time, cultivators could be seen everywhere in the Celestial Wolf Mountain range. Many of the big shots had come, and countless of the small fries had come. The big shots were fighting for the great fortune in the Skywolf Grotto heaven, while the nobodies were just here to watch the show. Some wanted to try their luck, and some came to train. All in all, the Skywolf city was currently overcrowded. Who is that? How dare he act so presumptuously in front of the third prince of Pingtian? He looks unfamiliar. Could he be a divine son who came out to train in a supreme sacred ground? Am I seeing things? That guy really seems to only be at the divine transformation realm. In the distant sky, many people were pointing at Gu Fei and gossiping. You two don't know what's good for you. Gu Fei looked at the mighty sanguine massacre god and the third prince of Pingtian with disdain. When I was dominating the world, the two of you were still playing in the mud. Die! The sanguine massacre god from the Purgatory Demon Palace made his move. He extended his right hand and directly grabbed at Gu Fei. An extremely violent demonic power erupted. Monstrous demonic chi shrouded the entire region as if night had suddenly fallen. Hee hee! Gu Fei smiled. He did not move, allowing the other party's demonic hand to grab him. What is this guy doing? Is he trying to take on the sanguine massacre god's attack? He's crazy! No one thought highly of Gu Fei. It was a joke that a mere divine transformation realm wanted to challenge a divine son from a top force. However, everyone's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets in the next moment. Just as Shui Tu Shin's demonic hand was about to grab Gu Fei, Shui Tu Shin's hand suddenly turned back and grabbed himself. What? Chapter 4481. Tragedy befell the god of Purgatory Demon Palace. He had no idea that Gu Fei could reverse his attacks. Not only did his attacks become ineffective, but he could even injure himself if he was careless. In the next moment, before his demonic hand could really grab Gu Fei, his own hand had already reached out to grab him back. The god of blood slaughter could not help but be surprised. He hurriedly moved to the side and dodged. What kind of secret technique was this? It was so strange. He had only arrived when Gu Fei was trapped in the killing formation, so he had no idea that Gu Fei could reverse all his attacks. Otherwise, he would not have attacked right away. "Another piece of trash," Gu Fei said coldly. "What did you say?" The god of blood slaughter could not help but become furious when he heard Gu Fei's words. Ever since he had started cultivating, he had never been looked down upon like this. This guy was just too despicable. Just as the god of blood slaughter was filled with shock and anger, the third prince took action. He took out a Dharmic decree. In the next moment, he activated the Dharmic decree. In an instant, a terrifying silhouette appeared in the sky. As soon as the figure appeared, the weather immediately changed. The sun and moon dimmed, and everyone felt their bodies sink as if a divine mountain had suddenly pressed down on them. Those with weaker cultivations had already begun to tremble. They could not even think of resisting. His Highness actually even has something like that. The two ancestors of the Zong family stared at the figure in the sky in shock. Shock and envy filled their eyes. That was the decree of a supreme saint immortal. It was the decree of the human emperor of the Pingtian divine empire. It was also one of the trump cards of the third prince. Yet now, Gu Fei had actually forced the third prince to use this trump card. This is getting a little interesting. Gu Fei stared at the figure formed by the decree. He wanted to fight very much, but now was not the time because he had sealed his own cultivation. Removing the seal was not difficult, but it was not something that could be done in a short amount of time. "I'll send you to hell!" The illusory figure in the sky directly attacked Gu Fei, and a terrifying power that could kill an immortal Venerable erupted from the illusory figure. Whoosh! The shadow instantly arrived in front of Gu Fei and blasted a punch towards him. "Come on, come at me fiercely!" Gu Fei did not resist and let the phantom's fist strike him. Bam! The fist landed directly on Gu Fei's chest, but Gu Fei did not move at all. Instead, the shadow was sent flying thousands of feet away. Xue Shen was dumbfounded when he saw this. This guy was only at the soul transformation realm, yet he could block human Emperor Pingtian's attack. It was just too unbelievable. He had broken the laws of this world. Xue Shen no longer dared to attack Gu Fei recklessly. Even Yen Sun, the third prince of Pingtian, could do nothing to Gu Fei at the moment. "Trash like you want to fight for the fortune in the celestial wolf grotto heaven?" Gu Fei was very disdainful. "You deserve to die!" Xue Shen gritted his teeth and glared at Gu Fei. At this moment, a thunderous voice suddenly rang out from the depths of the celestial wolf mountain range. "The entrance to the celestial wolf grotto heaven has appeared." Everyone was surprised and overjoyed. They all charged towards the depths of the celestial wolf mountain range. "Humph! Let's go!" The third prince waved his sleeve and directly soared into the sky on his divine beast, charging into the depths of the celestial wolf mountain range. The third prince's followers hurriedly chased after them. Xue Shen slipped away as well. The appearance of the celestial wolf grotto heaven stirred the clouds in all directions. All the cultivators charged towards the depths of the celestial wolf mountain range in a frenzy, wanting to enter the celestial wolf grotto heaven. At this moment, everyone else had run away from where Gu Fei was, which made him very depressed. "Brother Chu, you're awesome!" Pan Jiaming snuck back again and gave Gu Fei a thumbs up. "Brother Chu, how did you do it?" Wang Chen, who was beside Pan Jiaming, was extremely curious. "It's a secret." Gu Fei shook his head directly. This was his trump card. How could he tell others so easily? Only then did Gu Fei realize that the first prince of Pingtian, Yan Zhao, had already left at some point in time. "Let's go too." With that, Gu Fei charged into the sky with Pan Jianming and Wang Chen. "Celestial Wolf Grotto Heaven, I'm coming." When the Celestial Wolf Grotto Heaven appeared in the Celestial Wolf Mountain Range in the primal beginning world, an immortal's residence in the chaotic rift was extremely lively. The chaotic chi outside the immortal's residence had been completely devoured by Gu Fei. Just like that, anyone could enter the immortal's residence to try their luck. However, terrifying might of the extreme way suddenly erupted in the immortal's residence very soon. All living beings were extremely terrified. Huge figures appeared in the void one after another in the depths of the immortal's residence. Every single figure radiated with an extremely terrifying aura of the extreme way. All the important figures stared at the ancient hall that hovered in the void. At this moment, the surface of the ancient hall fell off. It was actually a bronze divine hall refined from bronze. The bronze divine hall was extremely ancient, and had existed for countless years. It was unfathomable, and there was definitely something hidden within it that could make even extreme way sovereigns go crazy. Gu Ling watched the show from the side under the protection of the Star Beast Sovereign. She was not in a hurry. It would be best if these fellows went all out, and both sides suffered heavy losses. Boom! After over a dozen days of confrontation, someone finally took action. The might of the extreme way erupted. A young man extended his hand and was about to take away the bronze divine hall. It was simple and straightforward. Humph! Right at this moment, a massive figure appeared in front of the supreme being that had attacked. Scram! The young extreme way sovereign continued to attack. The entire void shook as the terrifying might of the extreme way spread out. Billions of living beings were terrified to the extreme. They've finally started fighting. Gu Ling sighed. These fellows had been in a stalemate here for over a dozen days. The battle of the extreme way sovereigns erupted. As the extreme way sovereigns attacked one after another, over a dozen terrifying figures moved rapidly in the void and violently attacked the grand formation. The vast and mighty energy waves shook the entire heaven and earth. If it wasn't for the incomparably powerful force that froze the entire heaven and earth, even an extreme way sovereign would be able to destroy this grotto heaven with a single punch. Those extreme way sovereigns all wanted to take away the bronze divine hall. However, once someone attacked the bronze divine hall, that person would be forced back by the other sovereigns. The bronze divine hall was very sturdy. Even an extreme way sovereign's attack did not leave a single mark on it. This was definitely a supreme item that surpassed the extreme way. Chapter 4482. Inside the chaos rift between the primal beginning realm and the heavenly realm, an incomparably huge immortal abode floated in the chaos chi, giving off a feeling of endless vicissitudes. At this time, the surroundings of the immortal abode, on the ground, and in the void, were filled with cultivators. Those who could enter the chaos rift had to be at least at the immortal realm. In the past, there were definitely not many people who could enter the immortal abode. That was because the layer of primal chi outside the immortal mansion had blocked countless people, and only quasi-supreme beings and above could pass through it. But now, the layer of primal chi outside the immortal mansion had already been swallowed by Gu Fei. This way, everyone could enter the Chaos Immortal Abode. However, the Chaos Immortal Abode was filled with dangers everywhere. If one was not careful, one could die in the Immortal Abode and never get out. At this time, an extremely powerful aura suddenly rushed out from the gate of the Immortal Abode in front of them. Rumble! As soon as the aura appeared, the void of the Immortal Abode shook. Countless cultivators were so terrified that they directly lay on the ground and trembled. Even the most ferocious beasts, the powerful and ferocious divine beasts, became obedient at this time. They also lay on the ground and lowered their heads. Supremes! Even the nearby quasi-supremes felt their souls tremble. The aura that came from the immortal abode belonged to an extreme grade supreme. Moreover, there was more than one aura of an extreme grade supremacy surging out from the immortal gate. What's happening? Did a battle of extreme grade supreme break out inside? The old fellows were inexplicably shocked. A battle of extreme grade supreme was the most terrifying battle in the world. Not to mention who would win between the two supremes, countless ordinary living beings would suffer first. A battle would definitely destroy the world, and millions of lives would be plunged into misery and suffering. Fortunately, supreme existences usually did not fight with each other. But now that they were inside the Chaos Immortal Abode, the extreme grade supreme had no scruples. There was no doubt that a battle of extreme grade supreme broke out in the Chaos Immortal Abode. A battle of this level was extremely terrifying. When the news spread, it caused a huge shock in the primal beginning realm, the heavenly realm, the human realm, and the ancestral realm. Just what exactly is in that place? Even a supreme being is taking action. The rulers of the top forces in the primogenitor realm were all very curious. One had to know that anything that could make the extreme grade sovereigns fight over it was definitely incomparably heaven-defying. It seems that I also need to go out for a walk. In the human realm, in the depths of the Jiang family's ancestral land, a voice suddenly rang out. At this time, the human world was relatively peaceful compared to the heaven realm. However, the heaven realm was different. The heaven realm was in a mess because of the divine sons and saintesses from the primal beginning realm. The so-called divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm had actually set up arenas all over the heaven realm to challenge all the cultivation geniuses of the heaven realm. In the celestial city of the divine region of the heaven realm, the divine son of Taichun from the primordial beginning realm had already defeated the quasi-supremes in the celestial city. Even the quasi-supremes from other places had been defeated by him. In the past few days, God's son of Taichun had been complacent. Ever since he had set up the arena in Celestial City, he had never tasted defeat. He was arrogant, and supercilious, treating the cultivators of the heaven realm as ants. He actually used the cultivators of the heaven realm to feed his battle pet, the golden lion with 2 wings. That was a divine beast, a heavenly lion. The heavenly lion race was not a weak race in the primal beginning realm, but there were very few of them, and even fewer of them could grow to adulthood. The heavenly lion's battle prowess was astonishing. It was a divine beast that even the primal beginning realm wanted to subdue, because once the heavenly lion submitted, it would forever be loyal and would never betray. At this time, everyone in the celestial city was in a state of panic. Countless cultivators fled, and even the disciples of the Yuan family in the celestial city were eaten by the divine son of Tai Chen's heavenly lion. The heavenly lion fed on human cultivators. The higher the cultivation of the cultivators it devoured, the faster the heavenly lion's cultivation increased. 3 days have passed. Gu Fei, Demon Lord Di Jiutian, none of them have appeared. It seems like they are afraid of me, ha! On the arena of the celestial city, the voice of the divine son of Taichun spread throughout the entire city. Seal the city! The divine son of Taichun immediately ordered. If Gu Fei and the others still did not appear, he would start massacring the city. In the next moment, a formation was activated, and the entire celestial city was enveloped by the formation. Even if it was a quasi-sovereign, it would be impossible for them to leave at this time. This was a powerful trapping formation that could trap a quasi-sovereign. Celestial City, the Yuan family. In an isolated secret room, the upper echelons of the Yuan family arrived. Father, the Divine Son ordered the city to be sealed. Does he really dare to massacre the entire city? A black-clothed youth looked at the patriarch of the Yuan family, Yuan Tian, who was sitting in the seat of honor. Big brother, the kid Taichun doesn't seem to be joking. A square-faced middle-aged man said with a frown. Their Yuan family had submitted to the divine son of Taichun, but who would have thought that the divine son of Taichun did not put them in his eyes at all? If he wanted to kill them, he would kill them without batting an eyelid. Who cares if he's joking or not? We should prepare for the worst. The patriarch of the Yuan family, Yuan Tian, glanced at his younger brother and son and said, Celestial City originally had 3 major forces. The Yuan family was only the weakest among the 3. However, the other 2 forces that were stronger than the Yuan family had been annihilated. Time passed quickly. A day passed very quickly. Celestial City, on the stage, the divine son of Taichun looked at the sun that was slowly rising from the east. Below the stage, there was a large group of black-clothed people. Each of them was emitting a powerful aura. They were the elites under the command of the divine son of Taichun, the Black Wind Guards. They belonged to him and were personally trained by him. The divine son of Taichun came from another eternal divine dynasty in the primal beginning realm, the Taichun divine dynasty. At noon, the divine son of Taichun waved his sleeve and ordered the Black Wind Guards below the stage. The massacre begins. Kill them all, kill them all. The divine son of Tai Chen's voice resounded throughout the entire celestial city. What? Countless people in the celestial city were scared out of their wits when they heard the voice. At this moment, the black wind guards below the stage rushed in all directions like a gust of black wind. Just as the countless residents of the celestial city were about to be slaughtered, a loud noise was heard. In the next moment, the great formation that enveloped the entire celestial city actually collapsed. A figure dashed into the city from outside and headed straight for the arena. The divine son of Tai Chin could not help but be surprised when he saw the figure rushing towards him. You want to challenge my master Gu Fei? Eat my fist first. The person directly punched towards the divine son of Tai Chin on the stage. The violent and powerful fist energy spread out and shook the sky. Chapter 4483. Heavenly Realm, Central Domain, Celestial City. A powerful silhouette destroyed a peerless formation that could even trap a quasi-supreme with a single punch, and directly charged into Celestial City. That person directly charged towards the arena and blasted a punch towards the arena below. The extremely strong fist force immediately shook the void between heaven and earth. Countless runes appeared on the ring protected by the formation. However, as soon as the runes appeared, they collapsed. Cracks appeared on the ring, as if it could collapse at any time. Humph! Divine Son Taichen stepped with his right foot, and a wave of power surged out from beneath his feet. The altar that was shaking violently stopped shaking. One rune after another spread out from beneath Divine Child Taichen's feet, and the cracks on the altar beneath his feet quickly disappeared. Buzz! A ball of divine light surged from his body. Boom! With a loud sound, the person's fist had already landed on Divine Son Taichen's protective divine light. Crack! God Child Taichen's protective divine light actually cracked, and countless cracks appeared on it. What? Divine Son Taichen could not help but be moved. Who are you to be my opponent? Divine Son Taichen stared at the person in the sky and said, I am Gu Zhong. The person descended from the sky and landed on the ring. What, he is Gu Fei's disciple, Gu Zhong? Yuan Tian, the head of the Yuan family, who was standing beside Divine Son Taichen, was shocked. Gu Fei's disciple? Divine Son Taichen frowned and was a little unhappy. He had challenged Gu Fei, but Gu Fei did not come. Instead, his disciple appeared. You dare to challenge my master, who do you think you are? Gu Zhong looked at Divine Son Taichen disdainfully. You! Divine Son Taichen was furious. At this moment, a violent energy fluctuation came from all around. The black wind guards that had gone to massacre the city were forced back by a group of people. Those people were wearing purple gold armor and holding purple gold spears. Every single one of them was like a god of war that had descended from the heavens. They were extremely powerful. The black wind guards who wanted to massacre the city were no match for these battle soldiers. They were stabbed to death by the purple gold battle soldiers one after another. Where did this guy come from? He's actually so strong! The members of the Yuan family were already terrified. The power bursting out from those violet gold battle soldiers was too strong. Every single one of them actually had a saint rank battle soldier. This was a group of saint rank holy soldiers. Even those top powers in the heaven realm could not form a saint army. One must know that every soldier was a saint. This was too shocking. This was because in the eyes of ordinary people, sages were high and mighty, looking down on the common people. Under sages, all were ants. However, the appearance of this army shocked the entire heaven realm, the human realm, and even the primal beginning realm. It caused a huge commotion. How is this possible? Seeing this, Taichen couldn't help but be shocked. In the primal beginning world, there was no such thing as a saint. An immortal emperor was a saint. In his opinion, every violet gold battle soldier that came out from heaven's sovereign city was an immortal emperor. An army of immortal emperors. How could this be possible? Even the Taichen God dynasty could not have such an army. At this time, the members of the Black Wind Guard fell one after another. On the stage, God's son Taichen felt extremely pained. This was a guard that he had spent countless manpower and resources to build. Every member of the Black Wind Guard was a heaven immortal. However, in front of an immortal Emperor Violet Gold battle soldier, a heaven immortal was actually not much stronger than an ant. Very soon, Godson Tai-Chen's Black Wind Guard was completely annihilated. Roar! The heavenly lion beside Godson Tai-Chen roared. Boom! At this time, Godson Tai-Chen's body exploded with a dazzling divine light, as if he had appeared on the stage that day. Powerful immortal Tao energy exploded. Godson Tai-Chen's hair turned golden, his skin also turned golden. He also cultivated the power of metal. Go to hell! Godson Tai-Chen roared and attacked. Rays of golden light rushed out from his body, turning into golden divine swords that pierced towards Gu Zhong. Every ray of sword light was extremely sharp. Shocking sword chi spread out, causing the temperature of the entire area to drop rapidly. Humph! Gu Zhong smiled and threw a punch. Golden light spread out, illuminating the heavens and earth. All the golden divine swords that were slashing towards him were shattered by his fist. There seemed to be a terrifying gust of wind blowing in the arena. The patriarch of the Yuan family, Yuan Tian, and the heavenly lion were both sent flying. The patriarch of Yuan family coughed out blood. His injuries were not light. Spear, come! The divine son of Tai-Chen extended his right hand and a spear immediately appeared in his hand. An astonishing ripple of power immediately erupted from the spear. A golden battle tiger shadow rushed out from the spear, baring its fangs and claws at Gu Zhong, roaring continuously. A dangerous aura spread out from Godson Tai-Chen's body. His battle strength increased exponentially with the spear in hand. To be able to die under my sky-dominating battle tiger spear, your life is not in vain. Godson Tai-Chen stared at Gu Zhong, his battle intent surging. Although this opponent was not Gu Fei, Demon Lord or the others, it was still able to make his battle blood boil. That feeling of blood boiling. Godson Tai-Chen was infatuated with this feeling. To be able to die under my fist, you can be considered a character, Gu Zhong said with a trace of disdain. Again. Godson Tai-Chen waved his spear, using it as a rod, smashing it down towards Gu Zhong's head. Swish! Gu Zhong took a step forward and instantly disappeared. In the next moment, his fist had already smashed onto Godson Tai-Chen's face. Godson Tai-Chen's face was instantly filled with excitement. His entire nose bridge was smashed. It was such a sour feeling. The people from the Yuan family were dumbfounded. At this moment, the purple gold battle soldiers had already surrounded the stage. 500 saint soldiers. The eyeballs of some of the spectators almost fell to the ground. 500 saint rank soldiers, this was definitely many times stronger than an army of thousands. This kind of soldier was enough to sweep through the world. Who has such a great fortune to be able to form such an army? Someone exclaimed. Boom! Godson Tai-Chen was completely enraged, fighting Gu Zhong with his life. However, with a slap from Gu Zhong, he was sent flying. Godson Tai-Chen's teeth were all knocked out, and he spat out blood mixed with his teeth. Too weak. Gu Zhong continuously attacked, directly crushing Godson Tai-Chen. TSK, you only have this little ability, and you still dare to be so impudent here. You're courting death. He was unlucky to meet such an opponent when he went out today. This guy was too abnormal, even he was not his opponent. You! Gu Zhong then broke Godson Tai-Chen's left arm with a stomp. At this time, the high and mighty Godson had fallen to such a miserable state. This made everyone sigh. You bastard, if you have the guts, then kill me. My father will definitely avenge me. I can guarantee that you will die miserably. Godson of Tai-Chen stared at Gu Zhong and said coldly. Is that so? Then let them come find me. Gu Zhong was a little impatient. He directly stomped on this guy's body, and even his soul was scattered in the air, completely disappearing. Below the stage, countless cultivators quietened down. They all stared nervously at the two figures fighting on the stage, not missing a single detail. Roar! Gu Zhong had killed God's son of Taichen. In the eyes of the people from the primal beginning realm, this was definitely a heaven-shattering event. When the news spread, the gods' sons and saintesses from the primal beginning realm were all extremely shocked. Seeing that God's son of Taichen had died, the golden celestial wolf hurriedly rushed into the sky, wanting to escape. Sword, come! Gu Zhong shouted. In the next moment, he extended his right hand and a sword light immediately flew back to him, landing in his hand. Whoosh! Gu Zhong directly slashed at the escaping golden celestial lion. A sword light instantly caught up to the golden celestial lion and flashed past. In the next moment, the beast's movement stopped, and then its corpse was split in half. An extremely powerful celestial lion had fallen just like that. After Gu Zhong killed the golden celestial lion, he waved his sleeve and recalled the 500 saintesses. Then, he disappeared. No one knew where he went. Heaven Realm, another city in the central region, Heaven Marshal City. At this time, it was exactly noon. A group of people appeared outside Heaven Marshal City, directly arriving at the city gate and setting up a formation. It's the guy from the primal beginning realm. Black Dragon Sect? Someone recognized the symbol on the banner of the people outside the city. It was a black dragon. Other than the top forces in the primal beginning realm, there were also countless forces of various sizes. The Black Dragon Sect was actually just a medium sect in the Taichen God dynasty. At this time, there were still people who knew that God's son of Taichen was dead. Call Taiquan out to die! A black-clothed middle-aged man walked out. His voice was like a great bell, shaking the entire city. Oh no, the city lord offended the Black Dragon Sect a few days ago and injured their envoy. I didn't expect them to attack Heaven Marshal City so quickly. At this time, everyone in the city was inexplicably shocked. I didn't expect it to be the Black Dragon Sect. In the backyard of the city lord's mansion, an old man lying on a rattan chair opened his eyes. This person was the supreme patriarch of the Tai family, Tai Zhan. Tai Quan, if you don't come out to die, when will you? An incomparably dignified voice sounded again. The speaker was the left elder of the Black Dragon Sect. At this time, the city gate of Heaven Marshal City was tightly shut. The guards of the Tai family were on the city gate tower. They were all extremely nervous as they stared at the warriors of the Black Dragon Sect outside. The Black Dragon Sect Patriarch is personally taking action. The Tai family will definitely not be able to escape this time. In a pavilion not far from the city gate, a white-clothed young man was watching the show with his arms crossed. Several young disciples of the other forces in Heaven Marshal City were sitting in the pavilion. Taiquan had previously fought with the Black Dragon Sect. That day, an elder of the Black Dragon Sect had almost lost his life here. Taiquan was very powerful. He had the cultivation of a sage. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to defeat an elder of the Black Dragon Sect. Taiquan is too arrogant. Now his retribution has arrived. A middle-aged man in his 30s with a short beard said indifferently. A middle-aged man in his 30s with a short beard said lightly. He was from the Martial Dragon Sect, and his name was Wu Tianhe. He was Lang Feng's senior brother. Wu Tianhe was the first senior brother of the Martial Dragon Sect. His cultivation had already broken through to the Holy Venerate realm. He was definitely an outstanding figure among the younger generation of Heaven Marshal City. Senior brother Wu, you didn't see how badly Taiquan beat up the arrogant and despotic Black Dragon Sect, a young man said. None of those people from the primordial realm are good people. I also want to see those people from the primordial realm being stepped on and begging for mercy, a young man with a gloomy expression said through gritted teeth. A youth with a gloomy expression gritted his teeth. One of his uncles was killed by Li Kuang. Wu Tianhe didn't say anything after hearing these words. Heaven Marshal City originally had many other cultivation clans aside from the Tai, Jin, and Ling clans. These cultivation clans naturally couldn't compare to the three great clans, but they couldn't be underestimated either. The Wu, Lu, and Qin clans originally followed the lead of the Jin clan. However, the the Qin clan's patriarch had died under Tai Kuang's fist. 2 elders of the Lu clan had also been trampled to death by Tai Kuang. 3 elders of the Wu clan had also died. Once Tai Kuang went crazy, he wouldn't recognize anyone. In the pavilions of Heaven Martial City, only the Ling clan and the Martial Dragon sect hadn't died at Tai Kuang's hands. At this time, the Black Dragon sect had arrived. Although the various factions of Heaven Martial City didn't dare to openly oppose the Tai clan, they were happy to see the Tai clan suffer. Since the Tai clan is holed up, then let's kill our way into Heaven Martial City and destroy the Tai clan. The Black Dragon sect's patriarch sat on his throne and said lazily. He was a peak holy venerate existence, only half a step away from becoming a quasi-sovereign. However, it was this half a step that prevented the Black Dragon sect's patriarch from entering the quasi-sovereign realm. This time, the Black Dragon sect was determined to conquer Heaven Martial City. Yes, patriarch! The left and right elders of the Black Dragon sect hurriedly received the order and left. Just as the Black Dragon sect was about to attack the city gates slowly opened, and a figure walked out. His footsteps were steady, and his aura was like a mountain. When they saw this figure, the experts of the Black Dragon sect stopped at the same time. It's you? The left and right elders of the Black Dragon sect's expressions instantly turned grave. When the Black Dragon sect's patriarch, who was lying lazily on his throne, saw the person who walked out of the city, his eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. At this time, Tai Zhan strode out of the city gate. With every step he took, the void seemed to tremble. His footsteps seemed to move the rhythm of the entire world. In the eyes of the experts of the Black Dragon sect, Tai Zhan was like a mountain moving towards them. His powerful aura was so oppressive that they almost couldn't breathe. Middle-level sage cultivation? No, it should be peak sage. The left elder of the Black Dragon sect's pupils shrank as he stared at Tai Zhan, who was walking out of the city gate step by step. Tai Zhan was the supreme patriarch of Heaven Martial City's Tai family. At this time, the Black Dragon sect's patriarch's expression turned somewhat ugly. Isn't Tai Kuang very arrogant? What's the matter? My sect ancestor is here, and you're running away? The left protector of the Black Dragon sect said coldly. My Tai family has never had cowards. The old man leaned on his walking stick and coldly swept his gaze across the Black Dragon sect's army. This Black Dragon was indeed an expert of the primordial realm. The Black Dragon sect he established was also incomparably powerful. It could be said that he had obtained many benefits by relying on the Tai Qin God dynasty. There are no cowards in the Tai family. Then why doesn't Tai Kuang come out to die? Chapter 4485. There were quite a few people from the Tai Qin God dynasty who had crossed over to enter the heaven realm this time. After the god son of Tai Qin was killed by Gu Zhong, the elites of the Tai Qin God dynasty could be considered to be finished. Even the divine son had died in battle. It was even more difficult for the other people in the Celestial City to survive. The Celestial City's Yuan family was directly breached by the furious cultivators of the heaven realm. A large practitioner clan that had been passed down for several thousand years vanished into thin air just like that. This was the consequence of standing on the wrong side. Although the main force of the Tai Qin dynasty in the heaven realm was destroyed by Gu Zhong, there were still some forces under the Tai Qin dynasty wreaking havoc in the heaven realm. For example, the Black Dragon sect. The Black Dragon sect was one of the countless forces under the rule of the Tai Qin dynasty. The Black Dragon sect was only considered a lower middle faction in the primeval realm, and even in the Tai Qin God dynasty. The Black Dragon sect patriarch was a peak holy venerate existence. God son of Tai Qin oversaw the celestial city, and the countless subordinates he brought with him attacked in all directions. The target of the Black Dragon sect was Heaven Martial City, an ancient city that had existed for countless years. If we take down Heaven Martial City, the Divine Sun will definitely reward us handsomely. The Black Dragon sect ancestor's heart was burning with passion. He didn't want any rewards, he just wanted something from God-child Tai Chen's hands. This thing might be able to help him take that step forward. At this moment, the entire Heaven Martial City was very quiet. The city gates were wide open, but there was a figure standing in front of the city gates. He was the supreme patriarch of the Heaven Martial City's Tai clan, Tai Zhan. Is there no one else in the Tai family? They actually sent the old and weak to fight, the left protector of the Black Dragon sect said coldly. TCH, trash like you actually dared to invade my Heaven Martial City. You're courting death, Tai Zhan said disdainfully. What did you say? The left protector of the Black Dragon sect was furious. Are you deaf? Tai Zhan said coldly. Roar! Go to hell! The left protector of the Black Dragon sect was enraged. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed at Tai Zhan. Roar! A dragon's roar rang out, and the left protector of the Black Dragon sect's right hand, which was grabbing at Tai Zhan, suddenly released a tremendous wave of energy. Then, a dragon shadow ferociously pounced at Tai Zhan. Tai Zhan directly punched out. Boom! With a muffled sound, the dragon shadow that was pouncing towards him immediately exploded. Powerful energy ripples spread out in all directions. Sand and stones flew everywhere outside the city gate, and the sun and moon lost their light. Countless people in the city were terrified to the extreme, especially those with cultivation. They were even more terrified because the Black Dragon sect had once massacred cities in the Heaven Realm. Before this, the Black Dragon sect had once attacked a small city in the middle region of the Heaven Realm. These fellows had actually killed everyone in that small city. Regardless of whether they were cultivators or ordinary people, they were all killed. The Black Dragon cult did not have a good reputation in the primordial world. Kill! At this moment, the left protector of the Black Dragon sect let out a furious roar and fiercely pounced towards Tai Zhan. The two experts began to fight outside the city gate. The Black Dragon school had the advantage in numbers, but the Iron Clan of Tianwu City was far inferior. At this moment, in a training ground of the Iron Clan, Tai Kuang sat cross-legged on the ground. He was breaking through the shackles of cultivation. If he succeeded, he would be the only disciple of the Iron Clan of Tianwu City to step into the quasi-supreme stage in the past 10 million years. The Iron Clan of Tianwu City did not have a quasi-supreme stage, but the Iron Clan also had a powerful backer. However, this backer had no time to care about the Iron Clan. Tai Zhan was Tai Kuang's grandfather. It was not that Tai Kuang did not dare to come out to fight, but that he could not split himself at all. The supreme patriarch of the Iron Clan could only block the experts of the Black Dragon sect to buy time for his grandson so that Tai Kuang could focus on breaking through the shackles of cultivation. At this time, the news of Divine Son Taichen's death had already spread. The major forces under the Taichen dynasty immediately retreated when they received the news. However, the Black Dragon sect still did not receive the news. Because the person who passed the message to the Black Dragon sect had already been trampled into meat paste by Gu Zhong. A figure appeared high up in the sky outside Heaven Martial City. This person was Gu Zhong, who had killed Divine Son Taichen. He had come, but he did not immediately take action. Gu Zhong sensed that there was an obscure and powerful yet unstable power in Tianwu City. This power was so strong that only a quasi-supreme stage like him could sense its existence. The power of the martial way! Gu Zhong was a little surprised. When did his master pass down the inheritance of the martial ancestor in the heavenly realm? Others might not know, but Gu Zhong was very clear that the power in Tianwu City was definitely the purest power of the martial way. This also meant that the person in the city had really obtained the true inheritance. The so-called true inheritance was the true inheritance. This kind of inheritance would not be passed down unless it was a core disciple. In the heavenly realm and the human realm, the orthodox martial way was Gu Fei's line. Gu Zhong had always regarded himself as the orthodox martial way. Who would have thought that this small Tianwu city would actually hide a great martial way expert? He was very curious, so he directly rushed down from the sky. Without alarming anyone, he directly appeared in Tai Kuang's seclusion place. Not bad. He's actually about to break through to the quasi-supreme stage. Gu Zhong sensed the energy fluctuation coming from the seclusion place, and immediately knew the cultivation of the person inside. At this moment, he suddenly felt a cold aura appear outside Tai Kwang's seclusion place. Someone is plotting against the person inside. Gu Zhong couldn't help but frown when he sensed the mysterious figure that was like a ghost. This person was obviously taking advantage of the fact that someone was in seclusion to kill the person in the seclusion place. Tai Kwang, you're dead this time. That person saw that there was no one around and directly jumped out from the darkness. Then, he activated a God Pearl and smashed it towards Tai Kwang's seclusion place. The power that erupted from the God Pearl was very strong. It was definitely at the holy Venerable level. That person laughed sinisterly. This time, Tai Kwang would definitely not be able to escape. However, just as that person was fantasizing about killing Tai Kwang, he only felt his collar tighten. In the next moment, he was grabbed by the neck and lifted up. And the God Pearl that he threw out with all his might was directly grabbed by a huge hand. What? That person's shock was no small matter. Extreme joy begets sorrow. He was about to kill the opponent he had fought with for his entire life. But who would have thought that someone would actually make a move and easily capture him? This was truly a tragedy. Gu Zhong directly read the person's memory. That person is an elder of the Lu clan of Heaven Martial City? Gu Zhong frowned. There were 4 great clans in Heaven Martial City: Tai, Wu, Lu, and Qin. Among the 4 great clans, the Tai clan was the strongest. The other 3 clans were completely suppressed by the Tai clan. The clan leader of the Qin clan even died in the hands of Tai Kwang. Who are you? The elder of the Lu clan said with a trembling voice. Humph! Gu Zhong clenched his fist and with a crack, he directly broke the neck of the elder of the Lu clan. A ray of divine light shot out from between Gu Zhong's eyebrows and directly destroyed the Yuan spirit of the elder of the Lu clan. You want to live in front of me? What a joke! Gu Zhong tossed the corpse to the side and sat cross-legged in the void. At this moment, Gu Fei still had no idea that Gu Zhong had taken action. Moreover, Gu Zhong had slain a god as soon as he struck out. This was truly shocking. At this moment, an intense battle erupted in the Celestial Wolf Mountain range in the primordial world. Pan Jiaming looked at Gu Fei nervously and longingly. You want to accompany me? Gu Fei was even more puzzled. He was just a small cultivator in the incarnation realm, not even an immortal. He was the weakest among them. Why would this guy want to accompany him? Yes, if we join forces, we will be invincible. Who can resist us? Pan Jianming said heroically. Chapter 4486. The primordial world, the southern domain, and the celestial wolf tomb weren't secrets to the top powers in the primordial world. They were well aware of Paragon Skywolf's background. Before reaching Tao, Paragon Skywolf had been nothing more than a green wolf. He didn't have a heaven-defying talent, nor did he have a peerless physique, and he wasn't the descendant of some powerful being. He was just a little green wolf that witnessed his clan being slaughtered by others. Before Shaoqing Wolf's mother died, she'd pressed him under her body, allowing him to escape. With great perseverance, he'd taken one step at a time, growing from weak to strong. He'd experienced unimaginable suffering to finally stand at the peak of the multiverse. On the day he became a sovereign, he'd struck down the imperishable celestial dynasty that had wiped out his entire clan. He'd destroyed the dynasty that had ruled over billions of territories and existed for billions of years. No one could have imagined that the one who destroyed the imperishable celestial dynasty was the Shaoqing Wolf from back then. Paragon Skywolf eventually became an overlord, but 100,000 years after he'd become a sovereign, he'd reached the peak of the extreme Tao. There was no path ahead. He wanted to carve out his own path. The peak of the extreme Tao wasn't the end. There was still a path ahead, but no one knew if he'd found it. Some people said that he'd experienced a great terror. It was as if something ominous had happened to him when he'd surpassed the extreme Tao realm, and he'd nearly died on the spot. While he was still alive, Paragon Skywolf used his supreme divine ability to construct a huge tomb for himself. Then, he walked into the tomb himself. The entrance to his tomb was in the celestial wolf abyss. Before Paragon Skywolf built his tomb here, the celestial wolf abyss had been a danger zone in the southern domain of the primordial world. It was a terrifying place. Even a sovereign would be in danger if he entered the abyss, let alone other cultivators. Gu Fei looked carefully and discovered a secret beneath the abyss. The peerless swordlight that occasionally shot out of the abyss originated from a broken sword. It was hard to imagine how powerful and terrifying the sword had been before it was destroyed. A single broken sword was enough to keep countless experts at bay outside the Skywolf tomb. This dangerous place in the primordial beginning realm was extraordinary. At this time, other than a few people who had charged into the heavenly wolf abyss, everyone else was watching. Everyone knew very well that in this place, they would die if they were not careful. Boom! The sky above the Skywolf abyss suddenly lit up with an immortal light that resembled a divine sun. The next moment, a sword light rushed up from the abyss and directly split the immortal light in half. His identity in the primordial realm was Chu Xiaoyun, a disciple of the Crimson Firmament sect. Rumble! At this time, there was another shocking sound in the silent sky. A chariot rushed over from afar, pulled by 5 flood dragons. The 5 flood dragons pulled a bronze chariot, and on the chariot stood a tall figure. An extremely domineering aura exploded from this figure, causing the void to tremble. Each of the flood dragons pulling the chariot was a peak paragon existence. As soon as this person appeared, he immediately attracted countless gazes. Lord Long of the Great Dragon God Dynasty! Someone recognized the middle-aged warrior. The Great Dragon God Dynasty was one of the 7 divine dynasties of the primordial realm, and it was a super force. Lord Long was a peerless expert of the Great Dragon God Dynasty. No one dared to stop him. The extreme grade Saint Immortal of the Great Dragon God Dynasty directly drove the chariot and rushed into the abyss. Countless sword lights rushed up from the bottom of the abyss, but they were all blocked by Lord Long's power. The sword lights rushing out from the abyss could hurt extreme grade supremes. However, the terrifying sword lights in the eyes of others were nothing in the eyes of existences like Lord Long and the Blood Demon Ancestor. Rumble! The chariot crushed the void and directly disappeared into the abyss. After that, several extreme grade supremes rushed into the abyss. Some of them risked their injuries to enter this terrifying abyss. There were also a few quasi-supremes who tried to attack, but they all failed in the end. Some people plotted against them, but the real cause of their deaths was the broken sword. The sword light from the broken sword at the bottom of the abyss was enough to hurt extreme grade supremes and kill any creatures below the extreme grade. Some quasi-supremes even used extreme grade Dao artifacts or forbidden artifacts that could burst out with extreme grade power to force their way into the abyss, but the result was very tragic. Some of them were directly destroyed by the sword light rushing out from the abyss and died. Some were protected by the extreme grade Dao artifacts, and although they were seriously injured, they survived. Those who survived were undoubtedly the luckiest. However, there were even more people who ended up with their bodies and souls destroyed. Gu Fei observed for a long time and finally had some understanding of the sword light coming from the broken sword at the bottom of the abyss. The sword light from the broken sword had some kind of rule. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. At its strongest, it could hurt a supreme being, but at its weakest, it couldn't even kill a saint-level creature. Somehow, there was a chance of survival. However, this slim chance of survival was very difficult to grasp. Only an extreme supreme being would be able to see through it. Okay, get ready to attack, Gu Fei suddenly said to Pan Jianming. Are we going to attack? Pan Jianming was instantly overjoyed. This guy was very shrewd. He pulled Gu Fei into the team because he fancied Gu Fei's supreme divine ability that could reverse all attacks. As long as he stood beside Chu Xiaoyun, he could ignore all attacks. After saying this, Gu Fei sat cross-legged. He sat there for a long time. In the evening, when the curtain of night was about to fall, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on the boulder, suddenly opened his eyes. Pan Jianming, who had been guarding beside Gu Fei, immediately became spirited. Bend down, Gu Fei said to Pan Jianming. What? Pan Jianming was stunned and did not understand. You're carrying me! Gu Fei looked at Pan Jianming like he was looking at an idiot. Okay. Pan Jianming quickly nodded and bent down. Gu Fei did not stand on ceremony and directly jumped onto Pan Jianming's back. Pan Jianming could only carry Gu Fei on his back. Charge! Gu Fei waved his hand and Pan Jianming immediately carried him into the sky, rushing towards the abyss in front of them. Swish! Just as they approached the abyss, a divine arrow pierced through the void and shot towards Gu Fei and Pan Jianming at an extremely fast speed. Humph! Pan Jianming sneered. He simply did not care about the divine arrow. In the next moment, the divine arrow returned to where it came from, almost injuring the despicable and shameless fellow who shot it. Pan Jianming directly carried Gu Fei and rushed into the abyss. The moment he rushed into the abyss, a sword light rushed up from the bottom of the abyss and slashed towards them. The sharp sword she spread out and cut through the void. This is bad! Pan Jianming turned pale with fright, but in the next moment, that peerless sword light was reversed. How is this possible? Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. Reversing the opponent's attack? What kind of magical power was this? What kind of secret technique was this? Some people still attacked Gu Fei and the others. However, all the attacks were reversed by a mysterious power around Gu Fei. Even the sword light from the bottom of the abyss was no exception. Chapter 4487. Pan Jianming was extremely depressed. He was the divine child of the Five Elements Heaven sect. He was extremely noble and respected. Even the princes of the everlasting celestial dynasty had to lower their heads in front of him. But now, Chu Xiaoyun actually wanted him to carry him into the abyss. This made him very unhappy, but he did not dare to show his displeasure. How aggrieved! However, Pan Jianming had to admit that his choice was absolutely correct. Chu Xiaoyun could really ignore all attacks. In the distant sky, a powerful figure directly threw a spear at Gu Fei and Pan Jianming. Whoosh! The spear directly broke through the void, crossed the pitch-black void, and stabbed in front of Gu Fei in an instant. However, the inexplicable power on Gu Fei's body showed its might again. The spear was directly reversed by this power and returned to where it came from. Huh! That person could not help but be moved. The next moment, that person stretched out his hand and grabbed the spear that had pierced through the void. At this time, rays of immortal light burst out, all blasting towards Gu Fei and Pan Jianming. The whole world shook as if doomsday had arrived. Oh no! Pan Jianming, who was carrying Gu Fei on his back, could not help but be shocked when he saw this kind of attack. There was a supreme existence secretly attacking. Heaven and earth reversal! Gu Fei roared, and a power that was several times stronger than before burst out. At the same time, an earth-shattering terror instantly blasted the chaotic power that burst out from Gu Fei's body. In an instant, it seemed as if time had frozen, as if the world had reversed. Countless killing moves that were blasting towards them were perfectly reversed by the power that burst out from Gu Fei's body. What? How is this possible? This guy defies the natural order! Everyone was shocked by this scene. All the killing moves that were blasting towards Gu Fei and Pan Jianming were unexpectedly reversed by him without a trace. Screams and screams suddenly rang out. Some people could not dodge in time, and were hit by the reversed killing moves. Some people were extremely unlucky and were directly killed by their own killing moves. Some of them managed to escape, while others were heavily injured. While everyone was stunned, Pan Jianming carried Chu Xiaoyun, who was also known as Gu Fei, into the abyss. This is the serious abyss? Gu Fei carefully looked around and saw that it was gloomy, and there was an unknown fog lingering around. The surrounding temperature was very low, but there was no ice or snow on the ground. Boom! The moment Pan Jianming's feet touched the ground, a demonic light burst out like a demonic sun and blasted towards Gu Fei and Pan Jianming. Courting death! With a thought from Gu Fei, the strange force on his body immediately erupted, and the demonic sun-like light was directly reversed. Roar! The person who had launched a sneak attack on Gu Fei was directly hit by the demonic light. In the next moment, black smoke rose from his body, and his clothes were in tatters. He was in an extremely sorry state. I was wondering who it was. So it's you, a demon child. Pan Jianming said disdainfully. Sneak attacking Chu Xiaoyun and himself was no different from courting death. Clang! At this time, the shadows of divine weapons appeared in the sky. Each of them was a supreme Tao weapon that shook the heavens. Whoosh! Pan Jianming waved his right hand, and countless divine weapons immediately slashed towards the demon child. This person was the god-child of the Purgatory Demon Palace, Shuai-Tu-Shin, who had entered the Sirius Abyss. At this time, Shuai-Tu-Shin roared towards the sky, and his voice shook the void. It spread far and wide in the abyss, and even outside, so that people outside could hear his voice. A terrifying sound wave spread out, and it actually directly shattered the divine weapons that were slashing towards them, causing them to dissipate in the void. Go! Pan Jianming saw that the situation was not right, and directly carried Chu Xiaoyun, who was also known as Gu Fei, to escape. Where do you think you're going? Shuai-Tu-Shin grinned and took a step forward, instantly catching up to Pan Jianming. The next moment, a giant blood-colored hand suddenly appeared in the void, directly slapping towards Pan Jianming. He wanted to slap these two ant-like fellows to death with one slap. However, the next moment, his slap was reversed. Bam! Shuai-Tu-Shin's right hand slammed into his left shoulder, and the sound of bones breaking rang out. Damn, what a ruthless guy. Pan Jianming couldn't help but be surprised. Shuai-Tu-Shin was decisive in killing, and he was definitely a formidable person. Of course, this also required him to really grow up. Shuai-Tu-Shin stared at Gu Fei, his eyes flashing. This guy was just an ant in the divine transformation realm. How could he possibly take an attack from him? He definitely had a heaven-defying divine weapon on him. Shuai-Tu-Shin couldn't help but think of this. However, he didn't dare to make a move. This little guy is a bit interesting. In a corner of the abyss, a figure stared at Gu Fei. The sun and moon seemed to be sinking in his eyes, but his body didn't emit any incomparably powerful aura. The man disappeared into the void without a sound. In the depths of the abyss, a short sword lay quietly in a pile of rubble. Gu Fei pointed Pan Jianming all the way to the pile of rubble where the short sword was. Shuai-Tu-Shin followed Gu Fei all the way. Soon, Gu Fei and the others arrived at the pile of rubble. He directly jumped down from Pan Jianming's back. Then, he rushed into the rubble. There was a golden divine light flowing on the broken sword. Although it was destroyed, it could still erupt with incomparable power that could injure a supreme being. Gu Fei grabbed the half of the broken sword in his hand. That is... Shuai-Tu-Shin directly rushed over, wanting to take the broken sword from Gu Fei's hand. Your opponent is me! At this moment, a figure flashed over from the side, then blasted a punch at Shuai-Tu-Shin. The violent power of the 5 elements erupted from his fist. Boom! With a muffled sound, the two figures directly separated, and the powerful fluctuations of a quasi-supreme being spread in all directions. Sand and stones suddenly flew in the rubble, and the boulders weighing hundreds of thousands of kilograms were shaken away. Die! At this moment, Gu Fei roared. In the next moment, he held the broken sword in his hand and slashed at Shuai-Tu-Shin with all his strength. Whoosh! A sword light that was almost invisible to the naked eye flashed, and then a trace of blood seeped out of Shuai-Tu-Shin's forehead. In the next moment, he collapsed. He didn't even see that sword clearly until he died. Pan Jianming glanced at Gu Fei, then at Shuai-Tu-Shin, who had been split in half by Gu Fei. His forehead began to sweat again. This sword! Even Gu Fei didn't expect this sword to be so powerful. However, at this moment, his body swayed, and his legs went soft, almost falling to the ground. He only slashed once, but the power of this sword might be much stronger than he expected, because the moment he slashed with the sword, the broken sword had almost devoured all of his vitality. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for this sword to kill a quasi-supreme being. At this moment, Gu Fei put away the broken sword, then came in front of Xue Tuxin, squatted down, and carefully searched him. Yes, there are a lot of things. Gu Fei found a lot of things on Xue Tuxin's body. They found quite a lot of things, but at the level of the Xue Tu God, the things they had on them would be thrown into the heaven and earth they created. The Sanguine Massacre God was dead, but the internal world he had refined did not collapse because of his death. That sword! At this moment, Pan Jianming, who was scared out of his wits, was shocked to the extreme. A broken sword could actually kill a quasi-supreme being. The power of this broken sword was really frightening. Gu Fei was just an ant in the divine transformation realm, not even an immortal. However, he was able to kill a quasi-supreme being with just a broken sword. A divine transformation realm cultivator killing a quasi-supreme being. Even in the distant past, such an unbelievable thing had never happened. Pan Jianming was extremely jealous of the broken sword that Gu Fei had obtained, because that broken sword was definitely a great killing weapon. Although he was jealous, Pan Jianming knew that it was absolutely impossible for Chu Xiaoyun to spit it out now that it had fallen into his hands. Gu Fei sat cross-legged next to Xue Tuxin's corpse, then used his mysterious technique to carefully sense the void between heaven and earth. Soon, he suddenly opened his eyes and pointed out with a finger. Boom! Like a muffled sound from a heavenly drum, Gu Fei's finger actually opened up an inner world that belonged to Xue Tuxin. Gu Fei directly rushed in without hesitation. Pan Jianming did not fall behind. He also turned into a 5-element sword light and rushed into the inner world. However, when Pan Jianming entered this world, he discovered that Gu Fei had already taken everything away. This guy was simply a goose that didn't leave a feather behind. Everything was cleared away. Gu Fei directly found the core of this world, then sat cross-legged in front of the core of the world. He wanted to refine this part of the world. Pan Jianming was a step slower. In this part of the world, he did not obtain any benefits at all. He only picked up some things that others did not want. This part of the world was naturally the inner world that Xue Tuxin had opened up. Only Gu Fei's extremely powerful spirit could sense the location of this part of the world. Then, he pointed at a node between the outer world and the inner world. This opened up the inner world of Xue Tuxin. Rumble! Soon, the entire inner world of Xue Tuxin began to shake. This part of the inner world was very big, and there were many living creatures. However, Gu Fei saw through it with a glance. Most of the living creatures in this inner world were brought in from the outer world. The native creatures in this part of the world were pitifully few. Pan Jianming was filled with jealousy and hatred when he saw that Gu Fei was refining the core of this part of the world. His expression was uncertain, but in the end, he did not attack Gu Fei. Chapter 4488. The Bloody Massacre God was truly unlucky to have provoked Gu Fei. As a result, he ended up dead. Even the Bloody Massacre God's inner world was directly refined by Gu Fei into his own inner world to supplement and perfect the laws of the world in his inner world. Of course, in the eyes of the Bloody Massacre God, Gu Fei was just a soul formation realm ant from the Scarlet Heaven sect. Gu Fei's identity in the primal beginning realm was Chu Xiaoyun, a disciple of the Scarlet Heaven sect. This guy. At this time, Pan Jianming was extremely depressed. This Gu Fei was simply plucking feathers from a goose. Pan Jianming followed behind Gu Fei, but he didn't even get any soup, let alone cold food. At best, he only got some leftovers. The Bloody Massacre God's inner world was definitely his most precious thing. Pan Jianming was extremely jealous as he watched Gu Fei slowly refine the inner world. Rumble! In less than an hour, Gu Fei had refined the inner world's inner world and directly refined it into his own inner world. Congratulations, Brother Chu! After obtaining the Bloody Massacre God's inner world, your cultivation has greatly increased. Pan Jianming quickly came over to congratulate him. He was very shocked. Was this Chu Xiaoyun really just a soul formation realm disciple from the Scarlet Heaven sect? In Pan Jianming's view, Gu Fei was very mysterious, One must know that the Shui Tu Shen wasn't an ordinary quasi-sovereign. The inner world that he had opened up was much bigger than the inner worlds of ordinary quasi-sovereigns. This indirectly proved how powerful the bloody massacre god was. The larger the inner world, the higher the cultivation, and the stronger the combat power. This was inevitable. After refining the bloody massacre god's inner world, Gu Fei's cultivation must have greatly increased. Gu Fei smiled noncommittally. He was still in the soul formation realm, but the essence energy contained in the bloody massacre god's inner world was constantly nourishing his body. He did not intend to increase his cultivation. He wanted to build a heaven-defying foundation in the soul formation realm so that he could go further on the path of cultivation than others. In the grand beginning realm, the peak of every cultivation realm was not the limit. There was a limit realm. Beyond the peak was the limit realm. The extreme realm was a realm of cultivation that had been cultivated to its limits and reached perfection. There was no more room for improvement. If he were to take another step forward, he would break through his limits and enter a higher level of cultivation. Therefore, the paramount realm was the most perfect state for every cultivation realm. Many people in the grand beginning realm knew about the existence of the paramount realm, especially the divine sons and saintesses of the top factions. They all cultivated with the paramount realm as their goal. However, every cultivation level had to be cultivated to the extreme state. Even the divine sons and saintesses couldn't do that. Where did this guy come from? Pen Jiaming became even more cautious in his heart. A mere soul formation realm was actually able to refine the inner world of a quasi-sovereign. This was something that was basically impossible. Even the slightest bit of aura that a quasi-supreme being exuded would be enough to make a soul formation realm and soul scatter. However, not only did this Chu Xiaoyun completely ignore the pressure of a quasi-sovereign, but he also refined the sanguine slaughter god's inner world. He did what others couldn't. When Gu Fei and Pan Jianming came out of the sanguine slaughter god's inner world, the entire celestial wolf abyss became even darker. A supreme Tao Saint Immortal has made a move? Pan Jianming sensed powerful immortal auras surging out from the depths of the abyss. His expression changed drastically. He raised his head and stared into the abyss, only to see waves of towering blood qi surging out from the abyss, causing the sky above the abyss to change color. Every single one of them was powerful enough to crush the universe and scatter the galaxy. There were actually 5 of such supreme blood and qi. The 5 supreme Tao Saint Immortals were the most powerful existences in the primal beginning realm. They stood at the peak of all living beings and looked down on the entire primal beginning realm. Only supreme existences who were also supreme Tao Saint Immortals could be their opponents. It's just the celestial wolf tomb, yet it attracted 5 supremes? Gu Fei gazed into the abyss with a profound gaze. There was definitely something in the celestial wolf tomb that interested supreme Tao Saint Immortals. Something that could pique the interest of a supreme Tao Saint Immortal was definitely no small matter. Gu Fei finally began to have a trace of interest in the Skywolf Great Tomb. What should we do? Doesn't that mean we won't have a chance? Pen Jianming was dejected. There were too many good things in the celestial wolf tomb. Obtaining 1 or 2 of them was already a great fortune. But now that a supreme Tao Saint Immortal had made a move, what chance did they have? Gu Fei didn't say anything. He carefully examined the terrain around him before looking up at the starry sky. Yes. Gu Fei understood. This abyss was no small matter. Was it a forbidden ground formed by the heavens or was it set up by someone? The Great Abyss was a killing trap, a super killing trap. This super killing trap borrowed the terrain and heavenly might. This kind of killing trap could even kill supreme beings. The celestial wolf supreme actually dared to build his tomb in the abyss. This kind of courage wasn't something ordinary supremes could compare to. This was the formation Tao. It borrowed the power of the heavens, the earth, and the people. If necessary, a powerful formation Tao expert could borrow any power they wanted to kill their opponents. To a certain extent, even a perilous land formed naturally was also a kind of array Tao, the array Tao of heaven and earth. Let's go and see what a supreme is capable of, Gu Fei said as he strode into the abyss. Brother Chu, are you tired of living? Pan Jiaming was shocked. This guy dared to enter the abyss? Does he think he's a Supreme Tao Saint Immortal? Even Supreme Tao Saint Immortals had to be careful in the abyss. If they weren't careful, they would be injured or even die here. An extreme Tao Saint Immortal had entered the abyss 30,000 years ago, and he hadn't come out since. Some said that the Supreme Tao Saint Immortal died in the abyss. That was a place where even Supreme Tao Saint Immortals died. Haha, are you coming or not? Gu Fei laughed as he strode forward. Pan Jiaming's expression changed. In the end, he clenched his teeth and decided to go. He chased after Gu Fei. Meanwhile, deep in the abyss, a huge coffin was floating in the chaotic qi. The aura coming from the coffin was shocking. It did not feel like a world was evolving around it. There were 5 experts standing around the coffin. The aura emanating from each expert directly dispersed the cold aura in the surroundings. All 5 of them were Supreme Tao Saint Immortals. All 5 of them were staring at the coffin in front of them. Bossy, are you going, or should I? A young Supreme Tao Saint Immortal turned around and asked an old man beside him with a smile. Although they could see the huge coffin in the primal chaos aura in front of them, there was an invisible force enveloping the coffin. Even Supreme Tao Saint Immortals could not touch the coffin. Hee, it's the same for everyone. The old man called Bossy said with a smile. There's only 1 or 2 items. How are we going to split them? A mysterious man shrouded in a black robe suddenly asked. He was like a ruler in the darkness. Although he was standing there and his body was emitting a strong aura, his aura disappeared in the next moment. It was as if he had turned into nothingness. Yuan Geezer, we'll just rely on our own abilities. We won't be able to take what's yours. You won't be able to get what's not yours either, Bossy said. Rely on our own abilities, huh? The black-robed Supreme sneered. Humph! A middle-aged man in a white robe emitted 9 rays of immortal light. The light revolved around him as if it could destroy everything. The last Supreme Tao Saint Immortal was a disheveled old man. To be more precise, he was an old drunkard. Even in the serious tomb, he was still drunk. Heaven's extremity, what do you say? Bossy looked at the disheveled old man. Me? Haha, you guys can do whatever you want. What does it have to do with me? The disheveled old man laughed as he opened the wine gourd in his hand and poured a mouthful into his mouth. The fragrance of the wine filled the air. Even the other Supremes could not help but swallow a few mouthfuls. All right. We'll rely on our own abilities then. The other Supremes nodded. Bossy took a huge step forward and punched the void in front of him. An extremely violent immortal Tao power burst out from his fist. However, the attack of a Supreme was earth-shattering. Bossy's punch was enough to destroy a region and kill countless living beings. However, such a powerful punch did not display the power that it should have. Only visible ripples appeared in the void in front of it. The powerful Supreme's power seemed to have disappeared. What? Bossy was shocked. He seemed to have made a grave mistake. Oh no! The Supreme Tao Saint Immortals had extraordinary insight. Boss Yi's punch allowed the other Supreme Tao Saint Immortals to see something shocking. They were wrong from the start. Haha, this is going to be fun. The old drunkard Tian Jizi laughed. The other Supreme Tao Saint Immortals had ugly expressions. They were high and mighty Supreme Beings, yet they were actually schemed against by a dead person. They had fallen into a trap. They had actually fallen into a trap. Using our power to kill us? Bossy muttered to himself. They realized it too late. They had already put in a lot of effort to break the trap. The power of the 5 Supreme Tao Saint Immortals was unknowingly absorbed. This was not a good thing for the 5 Supreme Tao Saint Immortals. The Sirius Great Abyss was a dangerous place to begin with. They did not expect the Sirius Supreme to change it slightly and set up a trap within a trap. This trap within a trap was used to kill Supreme Tao Saint Immortals. 5 Supreme Tao Saint Immortals came this time. If all 5 Supreme Tao Saint Immortals perished in the Sirius Great Abyss, the entire primal beginning realm would fall into chaos. One should know that the 5 Supreme Tao Saint Immortals each represented a superforce that ruled over billions of territories. Once such a force lost the protection of the Supreme Tao Saint Immortals, it would definitely be devoured by other forces. By then, blood would flow like a river. Preposterous! Chapter 4489. The Celestial Wolf Tomb in the Primal Beginning Realm was a grand trap. It was hard to say if the Celestial Wolf Tomb contained the legendary item that could change one's fate. This grand trap was aimed at the extreme Tao Saint Immortals, especially the Celestial Wolf Sovereign's enemies. Even if he died, he wanted to trap them. The Celestial Wolf Abyss was a desolate region. It had devoured countless powerful beings in the Primal Beginning Realm over the years. The Celestial Wolf Sovereign had chosen this place as his tomb in order to set up a trap. Boom! The entire Skywolf Great Necropolis began to shake, and one rune after another appeared on the surface of the enormous coffin, surrounded by primal chaos energy. A powerful force burst out from the coffin, instantly connecting heaven and earth. Rumble! The ancient starfield that had been silent for countless years had awakened without any warning. The supreme existences in the Primal Beginning Realm immediately sensed it. What's going on? An incomparably powerful energy fluctuation erupted from a part of the starfield. Rays of bright starlight rapidly condensed, and billions of starlight directly formed a huge array diagram. Using billions of ancient stars as chess pieces to set up a formation was something even the immortal Tao Saint Kings couldn't do. After all, this was an ancient starfield that had existed for countless years. The power of the stars was unimaginably powerful. In just a few seconds, a formation larger than a region of the Primal Beginning world was completed. The moment the formation was completed, the power of the entire region gathered towards it like crazy. Someone's messing with the starfield? The lofty extreme Tao Saint Immortals in the Primal Beginning Realm released their divine senses. The divine senses of the extreme Tao Saint Immortals were so powerful that they could understand some things with just a thought. This was a super-killing formation made of stars that enveloped the entire starfield. Only supreme existences at the extreme Tao Saint Immortal realm had the ability to set up such a grand arrangement. Yes, it's resonating with the Celestial Wolf Abyss. The extreme Tao Saint Immortals communicated with their divine senses. Is this a trap set up by Little Wolf? Even Paragon Heavenwolf was a junior to such a supreme old-timer who had lived for countless years. He was originally the one who had the highest chance of taking that step. What a pity! The old voice was filled with regret. Unfortunately, those fellows actually killed that little guy. Another equally ancient supreme being sighed. Those people are short-sighted. Sigh. The old man sighed. These existences that had lived for countless years cared about very few things. They only had one goal, and that was to break through their shackles, break through their own limits, and realize the ultimate leap. As far as these super old-timers were concerned, there was a path at the end of the Polarity Tao. They wanted to see how far the Shaoqing wolf could go, but some of them were afraid that once the Shaoqing wolf succeeded, they would be killed, just like the immortal celestial dynasty that was destroyed by the Shaoqing dragon. As a result, they decided to make a move on the Shaoqing wolf. A great battle broke out in the depths of the starry sky without any warning. It shook the entire sky, shattered countless stars, and turned a region of the celestial realm into a dead zone. Paragon Heavenwolf was so powerful that he managed to kill 3 Supreme Tao Saint Immortals before fleeing with heavy injuries. Paragon Heavenwolf's shocking battle shook the entire primordial realm. The deaths of the 3 super antiques directly changed the power structure of the grand primordial world. It caused a huge upheaval and almost caused the grand primordial world to enter a dark age. Each of the 3 super old-timers was backed by a super faction. Once they lost the protection of the Supreme Tao Saint Immortal Patriarchs, the factions would become juicy meat in the eyes of others. However, these factions wouldn't just sit and wait for death. The counterattack of these factions was terrifying. In the end, several Supreme Tao Saint Immortals intervened to prevent the entire primordial realm from falling into a dark abyss. The Skywolf chaos lasted for nearly 10,000 years in the primordial realm. In the end, Paragon Heavenwolf walked into the tomb he built for himself. Some said he died in his tomb, but others said he didn't. However, more than 100,000 years had passed, and Paragon Heavenwolf hadn't reappeared. That was until today, when Paragon Heavenwolf's backup plan was activated. This is... Gu-Fei suddenly stopped in his tracks as he headed deeper into the great abyss. He raised his head and saw a thick black mist in the sky. The black mist blotted out the entire sky. "What's going on?" Pen Jianming, who was following behind Gu-Fei, also raised his head. His expression changed when he saw the billowing black mist. He was very careful. He had been cautious all his life. He followed behind Gu-Fei step by step, following the footprints left behind by Gu-Fei. This kind of terrain is like a hidden dragon in the abyss. It won't erupt easily, but it seems like it's awakening now. It's enveloping the entire abyss. Outsiders can't enter, and those inside can't leave, Gu-Fei said indifferently. He was still looking at the sky. His gaze penetrated the layer of black mist in the sky and directly looked at the ancient star field in the depths of the starry sky. Damn! Gu-Fei couldn't help but be tempted. This was a heaven-earth death trap. It was definitely set up to trap and kill Supreme Tao Saint Immortals. Someone was using the power of the world to trap and kill Supreme Tao Saint Immortals. This... Brother Chu, why don't we leave this place? Pen Jianming was terrified. This was a heaven-earth death trap. He was just a god from the Five Elements heavenly sect, and not even the strongest one. In front of this kind of death trap, he was nothing more than a fart, not even an ant. Scared again? Gu-Fei smiled and retracted his gaze. The heaven-earth death trap was terrifying, but he was confident. Scared again? I've never been scared before, Pen Jianming said angrily. Haha, I'm not scared. I'm just a little timid. Gu-Fei laughed. I'm not a coward. I'm just worried about fellow Taoist Chu. If we don't leave now, we'll die here. Pen Jianming regretted following Gu-Fei into the great abyss. At this time, Gu-Fei and Pen Jianming's position was very subtle. Beams of destructive divine light began to appear in the void around them, but not a single divine light appeared within 100 feet of where they were. The divine light came from the ground, destroying everything in its path. There was a flash of divine light, and a cultivator who was retreating out of the abyss in fear was directly turned into a bloody mist by the divine light. Both his body and soul were destroyed. This abyss. Chapter 4490. The Great Sirius Abyss had completely awakened in the southern region of the primal beginning realm. A terrifying aura filled the entire region. Even the super antiques that had been living in seclusion for countless years had come out. That Sirius brat still wants to screw people over even in death. One after another, extreme Tao-level immortal wills appeared everywhere in the primal beginning realm. Shadows formed by immortal wills appeared outside the Sirius Abyss. The Great Sirius Abyss had completely changed. A terrifying aura enveloped the entire region and isolated the heavenly secrets. Even extreme Tao Saint Immortals couldn't sense what was happening inside the abyss. I don't want to die. No. Countless experts were running for their lives inside the Great Sirius Abyss. They cried and screamed. They didn't want to die, they just wanted to live. However, streaks of divine light shot out of the ground and killed all living beings inside the abyss. With a flash of light, powerful living beings were reduced to a mist of blood, destroyed in both body and soul. Even quasi-supreme existences would find it hard to escape death. Even their primordial spirits would be destroyed, and it would be impossible for them to seize another's body and reincarnate. Even a powerful extreme Tao Saint Immortal had one of his arms reduced to a mist of blood when he was struck by the divine light that shot out of the ground. He was severely injured. The divine light that shot out of the abyss contained a terrifying power of laws. It wasn't impossible to recover after being injured by this power, but it was rather difficult. At this moment, the heirs of the major powers outside the abyss were so scared by the sudden scene that their faces turned pale. If they had charged into the abyss themselves, their fates would have been just as miserable. What a great killing trap! Some extreme Tao Saint immortals tried to break through the power of the abyss to save their heirs. However, the extreme Tao Saint immortal who tried to break through the abyss was immediately countered by the abyss. A projection formed from extreme Tao Saint immortal's consciousness collapsed in the void. Even someone as powerful as the extreme Tao Saint immortal couldn't break through the power of the abyss at this moment. At this time, in the depths of the starry sky above the abyss, beams of starlight descended from the sky and fell directly into the abyss. The power of the heavens layout was finally activated. With the resonance of heaven and earth, this celestial wolf-killing formation could finally be considered to be operating. The power of heaven and earth was like a millstone that obliterated everything. Even the extreme Tao Sacred Immortal couldn't withstand it at this moment. The extreme Tao Sacred Immortal that was injured by the divine light only had time to let out a cry before he died. Powerful extreme Tao level power erupted, shaking the entire abyss, and blood rained down from the sky. The heavenly Tao sensed the death of an extreme Tao Sacred Immortal, and all sorts of phenomena appeared in the entire world. He tricked a supreme being to death? Outside the abyss, the figures formed by the spiritual will of the supreme venerables were stunned. Those were supreme Tao Saint Immortals. Even if they were only at the initial stage, they were still supreme Tao Saint Immortals. An extreme Tao Sacred Immortal was definitely a supreme being that stood at the peak of the grand beginning realm. A single thought from them could destroy the world, shatter the stars, and kill billions of living beings. However, they were fleeing for their lives like mortals in the great serious abyss. In just a few breaths' time, 90% of the experts that entered the great serious abyss were annihilated by the power of the heaven and earth killing formation and completely disappeared from this world. Logically speaking, it was difficult for an immortal to die because an immortal had countless methods to keep themselves alive. Their lifespan was endless, and they could coexist with heaven and earth. However, in the great serious abyss, an immortal was too weak. Even a quasi-supreme immortal Venerable could not withstand a single blow. Even an extreme Tao Sacred Immortal would die. Meanwhile, in the great serious tomb in the depths of the great serious abyss, 5 extreme Tao Sacred Immortals were in a sorry state. Eldest Yi's body was charred by the lightning that appeared out of nowhere. His hair was standing on end, and smoke was rising from his body. If it wasn't for the net-like Tao treasure covering his body, he would have been heavily injured by the power of the abyss. The other 4 extreme Tao Sacred Immortals were more or less injured. This was absolutely unimaginable to these extreme Tao Sacred Immortals. One should know that the immortal bodies of extreme Tao Sacred Immortals were extreme Tao Sacred Immortals. Even ordinary extreme Tao immortal weapons could not harm them at all, but now they were injured. A single drop of a sovereign's blood could turn an area into a sea of blood. However, after these sovereigns were injured, the blood that dripped from their bodies was absorbed by the soil on the ground and disappeared. Sirius, I wasn't even afraid of you when you were alive. How dare you stir up trouble after you're dead? I'll destroy your body right now and make you disappear from this world. The young-looking extreme Tao Sacred Immortal roared furiously and attacked. Buzz! A sword hum shook the 9 heavens as a beam of sword light pierced through the sky. This was the attack of an extreme Tao Sword Immortal. Sword Chi filled the air, and with just a single sword strike, it actually broke through the layers of chaotic aura and directly struck the giant coffin in front of him. Clang! The sound of metal colliding resounded. In the next moment, the sword ray that landed on the giant coffin shattered. Eh? The other extreme Tao Sacred Immortals were taken aback when they saw this. This giant coffin was extraordinary. It could even block an attack from an extreme Tao Sacred Immortal. What a waste! He's using innate primordial divine metal to forge a coffin? The wing leader exclaimed. What? The other extreme Tao Sacred Immortals were shocked, especially the young-looking extreme Tao Sacred Immortal. His eyes were filled with greed as he stared at the giant coffin. If he used this innate primordial divine metal to refine his flying sword, the grade of his flying sword would undergo a transformation. Extreme Tao swords were also divided into different grades. This extreme Tao Sword Immortal did not manage to find any immortal materials in the past, so the grade of his flying sword was not very high. Now that he saw the giant coffin shrouded in chaotic primordial chi, it was no wonder he was jealous. Innate primordial divine metal was an immortal material that was born in the primordial chaos before the creation of heaven and earth. It was a divine material that was exclusive to extreme Tao sacred immortals. Only extreme Tao sacred immortals were able to refine this immortal metal into a Tao weapon. The giant coffin in front of them was like a small mountain in the chaotic chi. How much innate primordial divine metal was needed to refine such a giant coffin? TSK, you still have the time to think about other people's coffins? Your life is more important. The middle-aged Supreme glanced at the extreme Tao Sword Immortal and mocked. Meanwhile, the Great Abyss Killing Formation was fully activated. Boundless energy of the stars descended from the sky and merged perfectly with the energy of the abyss, trapping the 5 extreme Tao sacred immortals in the Skywolf Tomb's coffin. Roar! A series of roars suddenly rang out from the giant coffin in front of them. The 5 extreme Tao sacred immortals felt their scalps turn numb. Could it be that the Skywolf Supreme who had been dead for countless years has been resurrected? Chapter 4491. The abyss in the southern region of the primal incipient realm was one of the most dangerous places in the primal incipient realm. Even without the Skywolf tomb, the abyss had devoured Supreme Tao sacred immortals before. The Skywolf Supremacy's tomb was only located at the edge of the abyss depths. Even the Skywolf Supremacy didn't dare to enter the core region of the abyss. The deepest part of the abyss was extremely dangerous and terrifying. Even Supreme Tao sacred immortals didn't dare to enter. The Skywolf Supremacy was impressive. He built his tomb at the edge of the abyss depths and used the abyss power to trap and kill his enemies. The Skywolf Supremacy was ambushed and besieged, which resulted in him being fatally injured. He died not long after he built his tomb. He knew that his enemies would definitely dig up his grave after his death, so he set up a trap for them to kill him for all eternity. After countless years, the Skywolf Supremacy's tomb was finally found by the 5 Supreme Tao sacred immortals. They charged into the depths of the tomb, where the coffin was placed. The 5 Supreme Tao sacred immortals triggered the forbidden technique laid down by the Skywolf Supremacy and triggered the deadly trap. Damn, the gate of life is constantly changing. Are they trying to cut off all life? Gu Fei continued to deduce and quickly changed directions with Pan Jianming, dodging those terrifying destructive divine lights that were coming at them. After all, he was once an eternal realm existence. Even if his formation cultivation wasn't as good as He Tian's, his formation mastery definitely surpassed the level of a great grandmaster. I didn't expect Brother Chu's formation mastery to be so profound, Pan Jianming exclaimed. Gu Fei did not pay attention to this coward. From time to time, he would look up at the star domain and down at the terrain. Under the gaze of his divine eyes, the entire void of heaven and earth was filled with formation patterns that others could not see. When Pan Jianming saw that Gu Fei was ignoring him, he smiled awkwardly without any dissatisfaction. He had to rely on Chu Xiaoyun to survive. Perhaps he could leave this place alive if he stayed by Chu Xiaoyun's side. Interesting, interesting. Gu Fei couldn't help sighing in admiration. This heavenly wolf sovereign was definitely an expert in the array Tao. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to lay down such a deadly grand array. The killing formation drew upon the boundless power of the stars from above and the power of the abyss from below. These two powers seemed to have transformed into a gigantic millstone that obliterated all living beings within the killing formation. At this moment, the 5 extreme Tao sacred immortals were roaring at the Sky Wolf Supreme's coffin as they desperately resisted the power of the killing formation. Buzz! A resplendent immortal light burst forth from the body of the middle-aged Supreme Being. His entire being was like a divine sun that stood in the void, blocking the destructive energy that was about to obliterate everything. However, this killing trap was constantly devouring his energy. Although the speed was not very fast, at this rate, his vitality would be devoured by this killing trap sooner or later, and he would become a dried corpse. What should we do? The young Extreme Tao's Sacred Immortal's expression was extremely solemn. Rays of sword rays shot out from his body and directly destroyed the destructive energy that was about to obliterate everything. However, although his sword rays were able to block the power of the killing formation, the power of his sword Tao was also constantly being depleted. Let's break out of here together! Bossy shouted. After all, they were Extreme Tao's sacred immortals of the older generation that had lived for countless years. They were countless times stronger than low-stage Extreme Tao's sacred immortals. If it was any other Extreme Tao's sacred immortal, they would have been refined to death by this shocking killing formation. Rumble! A giant coffin was faintly visible in the primordial chaos chi. Countless ancient Tao runes appeared on the giant coffin, emitting extremely terrifying energy waves. Roars came from the giant coffin, causing the 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals to be extremely shocked. That heavenly wolf is still alive? Sacred Immortal Serene Yuan was shocked. If that was really the case, it would be very difficult for them to leave this place alive. There's no way he's still alive, the drunken old man murmured. The wine gourd in his hand was emitting immortal light that actually blocked the power of the surrounding killing formation. Among the 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals, only the disheveled old man was unaffected. He was still at ease. Heaven's extremity, what do you know that we don't? Bossy looked at the disheveled old man. He was almost unable to block it anymore. He could sense that the power of the killing formation was continuously gathering towards the giant coffin. Boom! With a loud bang, the coffin lid suddenly flew up. A hand reached out from the giant coffin. It was a skinny arm with long and sharp nails. A powerful aura of death emanated from the arm. A zombie? The 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals felt their scalps go numb. Was the Supreme that should have been dead for countless years crawling out of the coffin? In the next moment, the arm shrouded in death chi shrunk back into the giant coffin. The giant coffin was pitch black. Even the Extreme Tao's sacred immortals could not see into it. What are we waiting for? If we don't join forces, we'll all die here! Bossy roared. The aura of death in the giant coffin was vast. There seemed to be a terrifying hell evolving inside. The power was constantly increasing and had long surpassed the Extreme Tao's sacred immortal. All right. That's how it should be. The 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals rushed together. 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals gathered and formed an Extreme Tao domain. It was as if the sky was being split open, opening up a different world. This was the terror of the Extreme Tao's sacred immortals. Their power was not as simple as 1 + 1. The 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals joining forces was enough to sweep through the primordial world. Even the Supreme Sky Wolf might not be a match for them. But now, the ancient killing formation set up by the Supreme Sky Wolf actually forced the 5 Extreme Tao's sacred immortals to join forces. Boom! The Extreme Tao domain instantly expanded. Countless formation runes were destroyed. The Extreme Tao's sacred immortals joined forces to form a different world. It actually enveloped the giant coffin made of innate primordial divine metal. Haha, let's see what's in that Sky Wolf's coffin. Supreme Yuan laughed and arrived before the giant coffin in a flash. At this moment, the primordial chaos chi that enveloped the giant coffin was dispersed. Yuan, what are you doing? Hurry up and break the formation. Bossy roared at Supreme Yuan. Bossy, this coffin is the core of the formation. Destroy it and the killing formation will collapse by itself. Supreme Yuan said. Huh! The other Supremes were stunned. Meanwhile, the destructive power that surged from all directions compressed the range of the Extreme Tao's sacred immortals world. The 4 Supremes were struggling bitterly. Suddenly, a hand stretched out from the giant coffin and pierced through Supreme Yuan's chest and came out from his back. The hand was actually holding a heart. Supreme Yuan's heart was pulled out by the withered hand that was shrouded in the aura of death. What? Chapter 4492. Just as Gu Fei was deducing the heaven-shaking killing formation, the heaven-shaking killing formation began to show its power. The 5 Supreme Tao Sacred Immortals who had entered the Great Sirius Abyss were trapped in the Sirius Graveyard. The 5 Supreme Tao Sacred Immortals had to join forces to barely protect themselves. This was only temporary as the power of the killing formation continued to soar. The power of the ancient stars in the sky gathered towards the killing formation. Beams of starlight larger than mountains descended from the sky and entered the Sirius killing formation. This was the power of the Supreme Tao Sacred Immortals. Even Gu Fei felt a sense of danger. Although he had borrowed Chu Xiaoyan's body to travel in the primordial realm, his cultivation level was still at the Supreme Tao Sacred Immortal realm. He also cultivated the Eye of Eternity, which could see through all falsehoods. Under the gaze of his Eye of Eternity, the entire killing array had no secrets to speak of. Because of this, Gu Fei was able to deduce the life gate of the perfect killing formation. However, the life gate of the killing formation was constantly moving and changing. Pan Jianming, the divine son of the 5 Elements Sky Sect, had already turned pale with fright. Although he was a divine son, he had never seen something like this. Pan Jianming knew very well that he had to follow behind Gu Fei if he wanted to live. Meanwhile, the 5 Supreme Tao Sacred Immortals had joined forces to create a different world where the Sirius Coffin was located. Rumble! The power of the killing formation continued to soar. It seemed like it would not last much longer. Supreme Yu Yuan, who was standing next to the coffin, was suddenly pierced by a sharp claw from the coffin and his heart was snatched away. Roar! Supreme Yu Yuan roared into the sky. In the next moment, he was directly dragged into the coffin by the sharp claw. Bam! The coffin lid flew back and covered the coffin. What? All the other extreme Tao Saint Immortals were stunned by this scene. The coffin kept shaking. Soon, it stopped moving. Rays of blood-red light erupted from the coffin. It seemed like the coffin had completely awakened. Yu Yuan, that bastard! Boss Yi was shocked and furious. He never would have thought that Supreme Yu Yuan would actually die here. That was Supreme Yu Yuan. Back then, the battle between Supremacy Nether Yuan and Supremacy Skywolf had been earth-shattering. In the end, either side had been able to determine the victor. It could be said that Supreme Netherworld Yuan had also schemed against Supreme Skywolf. He was the mastermind behind the scenes. What should we do? The extreme Tao Sword Immortal was no longer calm. After the giant coffin devoured Supreme Yu Yuan, the energy fluctuations emitted from the coffin became even stronger. At this moment, the 4 Supreme Sacred Immortals stayed far away from the coffin and did not dare to approach it. This giant coffin was not ordinary. It could devour people. At this time, Gu Fei and Pan Jianming arrived nearby. Gu Fei immediately spotted the 4 Supreme Tao Sacred Immortals who were struggling in the center of the killing formation. These 4 fellows. Gu Fei could sense that the power of the immortal Tao on the 4 Supreme Sacred Immortals was weakening. The space the 4 Supreme Sacred Immortals had created was shrinking. Brother Chu, why did you stop? Pan Jianming asked carefully. There's no more path ahead, Gu Fei said indifferently. What? When Pan Jianming heard this, his face turned pale with fright. What should we do? I don't want to die here. Pan Jianming immediately cowered. He had no choice but to cower. This supreme killing formation could even trap and kill an extreme Tao Saint Immortal. He wasn't even an extreme Tao Saint Immortal yet. Tisk, chickening out again? Gu Fei glanced at Pan Jianming. This guy is still a coward after all. Brother Chu, why are you still in the mood to joke at a time like this? Pan Jianming was on the verge of tears. He had worked so hard to cultivate, gone through so many trials, and killed so many competitors to become the divine child of the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect. But in the end, it was all for naught. Buzz! At this moment, a sword hum resounded from Gu Fei's body. In the next moment, a ray of light shot out from his body and a sword appeared above his head. Although the sword had not been unsheathed, a chilling sword aura had already seeped out, sharp to the extreme. This is... When Pan Jianming saw this, he was slightly surprised. Why does this little fellow still want to use such a sword? The aura emitted by the sword wasn't very strong, but the moment the sword appeared, the entire world seemed to have changed. The terrifying destructive force coming at them from all directions was blocked by the gentle sword radiance emitted by the sword above Gu Fei's head. This? Pen Jianming was dumbfounded. No wonder Chu Xiaoyun was so calm. He already had a plan and was not afraid of the killing formation at all. Although he could not break the formation, for this killing formation to want to trap him, it was not an easy thing either. Brother Chu, you scared me to death. Why didn't you use this Dao artifact earlier? Pen Jianming calmed down and was no longer afraid. The sword floating above Gu Fei's head released a wave of power that enveloped Pen Jianming. Fellow Taoist outside, may I borrow the sword in your hand? Bossy had already sensed that there were two uninvited guests outside. People who could come to the core area of the celestial wolf tomb were definitely not simple. No way! Gu Fei rejected him directly. You want to borrow my 9 heavenly stars sword? Dream on. The 9 heaven stars sword was a Dao artifact that Gu Fei had refined himself. It was an eternal Dao artifact that had surpassed the category of an extreme Dao artifact. Therefore, this super-killing array could not do anything to the 9 heaven stars sword. Fellow Taoists, if you can save us, we can agree to any request. The Supreme Sword Immortal said hurriedly. That's right. We can agree to any of your conditions. The middle-aged Supreme Martial Artist nodded. The Heaven's Extremity also agreed. Although the Heaven's Extremity looked like he would never wake up from his drunken stupor, he knew better than anyone else. Agree to any condition? Pen Jianming was dumbfounded when he saw the 4 extreme Dao Sacred Immortals trying to curry favor with Gu Fei. The extreme Dao Sacred Immortals, who were usually high and mighty, actually had times when they needed someone's help. Hand over everything you have on you, and I'll think about it. Gu Fei glanced at the 4 experts trapped in the formation and said, This? The 4 Supreme Sacred Immortals exchanged glances. They were displeased, but they had no choice but to grab onto their only lifeline. They had no other choice. As the 4 Supreme Sacred Immortals lost their immortal energy, they could not hold on for much longer. No? Forget it then. Let's go! You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.